We can't afford to do this show.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Thursday, August 22nd, 2013. Time for your Gitmo Nation Media Assassination Episode 541.
This is No Agenda.
I'm going Chelsea here in the Travis Heights Hideout, capital of the Drone Star State, Austin, Texas. In the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where I'm not going Chelsea, I'm John C.
It's Craigbot and Buzzkill in the morning.
Stepping all over me.
Hold on. What does the C stand for? What are you telling me here?
You stepped all over my name.
Well, you went, I'm John C. WNBC Dvorak. John C. Dvorak, where the C stands for Chelsea.
It stands for
It's Chelsea.
cash.
Wow. I get to play it. Hold on a second. Where is it? Here we go.
Distraction of the week on No Agenda.
Over there. Holy moly. It was this. I have seen a lot in my lifetime when it comes to distracting the conversation away from what's really going on. But this one was good.
It was good. I'm wondering, do we have any real verification?
Yes, we do. In fact, I have the Today Show where...
Oh, there it is. We got it.
Oh, wait, but you got to listen to this. This is the Today Show with... what's her name? Savannah? I've never seen her before. Is this
Savannah. Yeah, Savannah Guthrie.
Yeah, she's hot.
She's funny because if you see her on a regular talk show, they have that show, by the way, Today's Show is probably one of the best lit shows on all the morning shows.
Totally,
it is
totally perfect.
Perfectly lit.
I agree.
I agree. She is blown out beautifully. She looks 10 times better than she actually does.
You heard it here first.
She's pretty anyway, but I'm just saying she's jaw-dropping on that show.
Oh, totally. So she's with Bradley Manning's lawyer. And the mind meld that takes place in this clip, which we just, and so there's a couple. She has like 2 minutes of preamble, which I caught off most of, and then all of a sudden the switch comes. But pay attention to I left 30 seconds in of talking about Mr. Manning, him, he, his, everything, and then all of a sudden we're going to switch everything. It's a mind meld.
So my answer would be yes, he would.
Do you think in any way he was used or persuaded or manipulated by WikiLeaks and Assange? I ask you that because during this trial, particularly in the sentencing phase, you portrayed him as somebody under extreme duress, psychologically damaged, dealing with a host of issues. Do you have any concerns about that?
And by the way, this Savannah, is she a journalist or is she a prompter reader? Because she's good. I like how she gets away with that.
Keep playing.
You check it out. Yeah.
No, the stress that he was under was mostly to give context to what was going on at the time. It was never an excuse for his actions because that was not what drove his actions. What drove his actions was a strong moral compass. WikiLeaks had nothing to do with bringing information out of him. He gave information to WikiLeaks.
You mentioned the moral compass. On the other hand, if he wanted to expose wrongdoing, how does he justify the indiscriminate mass leak of 750,000 documents that he could not possibly have read or known what was in them?
She's really good, John. What is her background? Is she a J school graduate?
She's actually an Aussie.
She's from Australia?
Well, yeah, but she moved to Tucson when she was 3. But anyway, graduated. She was in high school. She's a journalist. She went to Columbia, Missouri. She's in a sorority.
Phi Beta
For 2
Beta.
years, she's running. She's an NBC. She's always wanted. She's a TV girl.
She's
started
good.
KVOA, went to WRC TV. Then she got into Washington, D.C., picked up some big stories. She covered the anthrax.
Oh, there you go. Well,
she's a talking head.
she's good. Well, she's good. She's good
She
at
was
it.
a national trial correspondent for Court TV. She's been in the business, but she's always been in media.
How did we overlook her? How come we didn't snap her up for Mevio? We must have been...
Yeah, you look at one document.
Okay, so we're hearing he, him, his, and now watch
And,
or listen.
And it's basically by itself, and you would say, okay, He could read one document. He can't read 700,000 documents, but these documents are pretty much the same thing. And so you can get through a lot of documents realizing that there's not going to be harmful information in these documents, and there wasn't.
Let's talk about Mr. Manning personally.
Okay, so we've had all this. He, Mr. Manning.
He has provided a statement that he wants us to read, and this is part of it. As I transition into this next phase of my life, I want everyone to know the real me. I am Chelsea Manning. I am a female. Given the way that I feel and have felt since childhood, I want to begin hormone therapy as soon as possible. I also request that starting today, you refer to me by my new name and use the feminine pronoun. Why did she choose this moment to announce this?
And this goes on for 3 minutes, and they keep saying she, her. It's like...
Well, Chelsea didn't want to...
And listen to him. He's like right into it.
He jumps right in.
He's like, oh, yeah, well, Chelsea didn't... But just seconds ago, it was all Mr. Manning, him...
Have this be something that overshadowed the case. Wanted to wait until the case was done to move forward to the next stage of her life.
She wants hormone therapy. Fort Leavenworth does not...
I mean, it's like, so, okay, so let me just get this straight. And let me say something, let me preface this with, I know several transgendered people. I totally understand what it must be like to, be born in something that doesn't fit and you want to change. And I'm not condemning that at all. But what's happening here, where, this was the moment. You could mark it 7:53 a.m., and it was just a state of mind. We all decided that Bradley is now Chelsea. And I think it was phenomenal, but thinking of most people in America who watch this television program, who are going to be in the upper demo, 50 plus, I would say. I think if you really look at the numbers. It won't work in their brain. So they're so confused about this that you forget what he was convicted for.
Yeah, well, I think there's another element at play here, which is a little crack potty.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I hate to take
really
do some of your things.
Walking on my turf, boy.
But it seems to me as though this is a way to subvert the political career of Chelsea Clinton.
Really? Do you think that? Because I thought about it momentarily, but I'm like,
yeah, you thought about it momentarily because it actually makes some sense.
Yeah.
That.
So we don't know if this is actually true.
But,
I mean, this is just a statement that, a piece of paper, and they actually have the paper on screen. I love it when they do that. It's like Bradley Manning letterhead.
What?
Yeah, it's
the Bradley Manning letterhead.
Yeah, I know. I was like, the graphics department whipped this up, didn't they? I mean, do you have letterhead? Do you have John C. Dvorak letterhead laying around somewhere?
I do have some old letterhead, but I never use it because I could. With the printers and the email and the Microsoft document maker and all the rest of it, you can create any letterhead you wanted at the drop of a hat. So I have a bunch of them that I will use. If I need one, I'll put one up.
But I love it when they do that, and they have a printed letter. Like Bradley Manning couldn't send an email. I'm sorry, Chelsea. He decided that I'm gonna get my letterhead, and it was positioned in the middle. Just like
the 1950s.
Exactly. So the whole thing to me is like, wow, this is, and I think somewhere it relates to, it's going to come back somewhere. You watch and be like, well, we have Bradley Manning, and then we have Glenn Greenwald. It's the gay cabal. There's all kinds of stuff that's going to happen with this.
Gay cabal is getting on my nerves in this story because of the. Anderson Cooper, and then he has the Brazilian kid on there. The whole thing is getting a little this is a little suspicious. So this whole thing is very fishy.
All right, so you think that this is in some ways a subverting Chelsea Clinton's?
Well, you have to remember that the leak itself was subverting Hillary.
True.
I mean, the main person that was targeted in these things was Hillary.
Wow. Yes, you're right. It was all State Department cables. You're right.
So the second thing would be, obviously this is a frontal attack on the Clinton family.
Wow. And then just like
orchestrated by God knows who and why.
I wish I could have been a part of that meeting, though.
Oh, we're going to do this.
Hey, I got a great...
Hey, Bill, I got a great idea.
What's that, Ted?
We're going to have him change his sex.
Yeah.
That poor bastard, you put him through all this trouble. He's got 35 years in jail, and you're going to make him change his sex? Yeah.
But wait, I got an idea. Let's make him call himself Chelsea.
Keep that bitch Hillary from running. So play the 35 years clip. I thought this was kind of an interesting revelation. I didn't realize that, when they gave him 35 years, because we were so used to the kind of crap that goes on with this administration and the one before, that we don't think much about this. But let's put some things in perspective by playing the 35 years clip.
She's been covering the Manning trial for the New York Times. Charlie, 35-year sentence, 7 years perhaps before he gets a chance to be paroled. Is that considered a tough outcome?
It is a tough outcome. It is the longest by far sentence ever handed down in the United States in a case involving the leak of government secrets to the news media to be reported to the public.
So we're also talking about a reduction in rank as well as a dishonorable discharge. Does that add to this thing as well?
Well, I think being reduced to the lowest rank of private and a dishonorable discharge, it was expected, and it's sort of a minor thing. It's the 35-year prison sentence that's the important factor, a staggering amount of time compared to other sentences that have been handed down to convicted leakers.
What comparable sentences can you draw the link to here?
Well, you have to remember that there have been very few convictions of people for leaking information for public consumption at all in this country. The first time that happened was in 1985 or 84, where a former Navy analyst was sentenced to 2 years, and it was so rare that President Clinton later pardoned him, because it was sort of unfair that this one guy had been convicted for something that happens all the time. Under this administration, of course, that we've seen, as has been well documented, a flurry, a crackdown on leaking. There have been a few cases. One resulted in a sentence of 1 year probation in community service. One resulted in 20 months in prison. One resulted in 30 months in prison. And so 35 years is a categorical difference.
Yeah,
this is not, no one's paid attention to this.
Yeah, this is really an outrageous sentence, is what you're saying, compared to everything else we've seen.
For any leaking of classified information for public consumption, that he makes it clear in there. In other words, in fact, Manning got more years than a couple of guys, apparently, and I can't get you the exact numbers, of guys who spied for the Russians, and they were true traitors. They weren't leaking anything for public consumption. They were spying as actual spies, and they didn't get this kind of sentence. This is a very this has to be, there's got to be something by all this is messaging, propaganda. It seems that now every journalist, as we know, there is often no difference between the intelligence services in any country and their news divisions, both, but not just print, but primarily print. It seems like we just have a whole bunch of spies all writing stories about each other and yelling back and forth, and just nothing is what it seems in this. Nothing. Right, and the other thing to note is that some of the analysts analysis of this particular case is, and you see the code word used a lot, chilling effect.
Chilling, yeah. You've actually you alerted us to the word of the use of the word chilling many years ago, and I see it still all the time.
Yeah, it's a code word, but chilling effect is what this is supposed to have, a chilling effect on the media, and just but if you look at just what you now said, the media is long gone. I mean, it's been sold out forever. How's it having a chilling effect on the media when the media is sold out?
Well, so this is something that I picked up on. I've got, hold on a second, let me bring it up here. So here's Glenn Greenwald, and this, I think, is the main point of this exercise, is to determine who is a journalist, what is journalism, where do you draw the line, and perhaps, John, this is now flowing right into the media shield law so that we can actually define who is going to have quote-unquote protection.
Licenses.
Yeah. Why is this not working? Hello? Hey. That's weird. Hold on, let me try it again. Oh, this is new.
Glenn, was he carrying classified material with him?
Well, I'm not going to talk about what he was carrying because that's our work product as journalists. Remember, both Laura and I are working with The Guardian as
work product.
Guardian.
I got my work product right here.
Journalists. What I would say is every single newsroom in the United States, every single major news organization in the world has classified information. Reporting on what governments do in the secret is what journalism is about. So if you want to support the idea that states can just go and confiscate from journalists classified information, you should be demanding that your government go physically into newsrooms and seize whatever classified information is there. All of the best reporting over the last 40 years involves journalists having classified information. The Pentagon Papers, the Bush torture sites, CIA black sites, the illegal warrantless eavesdropping program. That's what investigative journalism is. And if you want to start criminalizing that, it means that you're asking as a citizen to be kept ignorant and to allow people in power to conceal what they're doing behind a wall of secrecy and to have no accountability or transparency. Journalism is not a crime and it is not terrorism.
And I find this interesting, this conversation, because to me, with this statement and with what happened here, and I love how the news media has classified David, Miranda, whatever. As
you ask me, and then you.
Thank you. But everyone's classifying him as Glenn Greenwald's partner. Now, Greenwald
calls him his husband.
They're not, as far as I know, they're not married, though. They're not officially married, even though they do live in Brazil where gay marriage is legal. It was always tolerated. Now it's officially legal, according to the Book of Knowledge. But, this whole, he's my partner thing, there's a reason for that. And it is a very British thing, I would say, to, some people even call their spouse their partner. But, you're my partner. It's like it's not like
hey-o.
No, but it's like because I'm a cop, so just because you're my partner now you're a cop. It doesn't really work that way. And what is the point of David Miranda carrying stuff? What is the point? Is it what I missed in the story? He had microfiches, microfilm. It's like what is this?
This whole thing
makes no sense. You can email stuff. You can
let me go over some research.
You can. There's a million ways to get stuff.
Ways to do this. Let's go over just the basics of this entire. I think this whole thing is a complete
ruse. It's a ruse.
It's beyond a ruse. It was a setup,
yeah.
And it was done by Glenn Greenwald. And let me here's the reasons why. Why was he on that particular flight?
When you can fly directly.
Well, you can't fly directly, as a matter of fact. In fact, you can not only fly directly, but if you get to Frankfurt, you can fly directly on a Brazilian carrier. But let's just go over the flights he did that he had options to take. This flight, why? And you have to ask yourself the question: why did he go to Heathrow? So I booked some flights for this upcoming Sunday, which is the same as the same as last Sunday. I looked at the flights and what was available. The best deal to Rio from by the way, there's 76 flights. The best deal is through Lisbon on TAP. It's $1,124. It's about 19 hours.
And we got to presume the Guardian are cheapskates. So since they apparently were paying for it,
it's a journalistic operation.
Yeah.
It's a cheapskate operation. They all are. So $1,124. That's your deal. The shortest is through Amsterdam. It's a short flight. It's only $1,355, and it's $1,921.
That's a lot. That's a lot extra, though.
A lot more, yes. And then if the cheapest flight through Heathrow, why would you go through Heathrow knowing that the British intelligence and American intelligence are watching? But okay, we're going to go through Heathrow. Why don't you take the $2,600 flight, which is a 17-hour flight? Instead, you choose a flight that is $2,900. It's as long as the flight through Lisbon. It's just about 19 hours, really long flight.
Which is the cheapest, and Lisbon is the cheapest option.
And Lisbon's the cheapest. Yeah. This is $2,900. And to top it off, to make you wonder what's the deal, because, of course, the key was that this landed at 8:05 in the morning when you had a shift change, and everything was perfectly set up to get stopped. But here's the question I ask you. You fly around.
Yeah.
Would you, with just the options I gave you right there, would you take this really expensive flight, takes just as long as the cheapest flight, and you have to be at the airport. You have to be. Okay. The plane leaves at 7 a.m.
Let me say something else. So besides just the logistics and the cost of it, anybody who knows, if you're in journalism, and if you let's say if you're sending your partner along who's carrying journalistic. What did he call it?
Nothing.
No, he called it. It's our tools of the trade, whatever, his work product, his journalistic work product. You don't send someone. There's no need to send someone through a non-Schengen agreement country, which is the UK. So if you go from Berlin to Portugal to Amsterdam to any other country in Europe, you don't have to go through passport control. It's only the UK. I think this, like maybe Sweden or something. But this is and if anyone who's been to London, unless you're going for the duty free at the airport, the process of going through UK customs is almost as bad as the United States, except there the guys are all Indian with big turbans on their heads. At least we have like uniforms and guns. It makes you kind of makes you feel like something special is happening when you're being let in. But there it's like, where are you coming from? It's horrible. It is an atrocious experience. There's no reason anyone would even want it.
And I want to reemphasize, this flight left at 7 a.m. And in Berlin.
Yeah.
Who is going to? If you're in a metropolitan area like this,
okay, we get it.
You have to be at the airport at 5. You have to get up at 4 in the morning.
No, we get it. You're absolutely right. It makes no sense unless you specifically want to be caught.
Right.
Okay. So, what is your conclusion then? Why did
he didn't have anything on? This was just another Glenn Greenwald branding exercise.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
He got on some shows again. Now he got on Anderson Cooper, and it made a big stink. I think the British were completely taken in by it, and I think the reason for keeping him for 9 hours was... I think the reason you do that in this case, because he had thumb drives. I'm assuming they hoped to get him to take a crap just in case he had a thumb drive up his butt and they could get it out of the shit. And so they probably did take a crap, and they probably fished through his dung, and they got embarrassed by this. So Greenwald had a big laugh on that. That was never discussed, by the way.
Hey, baby, how was it? Did you have fun?
And so this whole thing was and then they also got to make the point that Schedule 7, which is the terrorist thing, you can't stop anybody if you immediately. In fact, apparently the British oversight guy is going to look into this. You can't stop and harass some guy.
No. Now, I've read the legislation. This is not true. This is not true. Even if you have materials that could be deemed a danger.
I know that's what Jeff Tobin says too, and I have that clip.
But it's in the Section 7. I read it. It says it right there. So there's no dispute. And by the way, the same thing happens in America. Only we don't have a limit of 9 hours in America. We can keep you for weeks, for days, whatever. And yes, none of your stuff is you have no protection over your stuff.
Well,
so this is nothing new.
This does bring out the point, which maybe Greenwald wanted to do, with this is bull crap. I mean, this reminds me of the people who've been, TSA supposedly when it was put in place was to look for terrorists, implement some...
Please, John, there's a difference between TSA and CPB. So you have the Customs and Border Protection Agency.
But that's not my point. Okay. I was saying the TSA was put in place to do a certain job, and they still will bust somebody for marijuana.
Yeah, or whatever. Absolutely. They just busted...
That's not their job, but they do it anyway. And I still think that this is something of a stretch. I mean, Miranda himself, in fact, I have the clip, says that not once did they even ask him anything about terrorism in his whole 8 hours. Play the Miranda on Cooper.
And I'll say again, it doesn't matter.
What I was carrying, everything.
And David, British authorities say that they detained you under, it's called Schedule 7 of the UK Terrorism Act, which allows them to question someone to determine if they are or have been, and I quote, concerned to the commission, preparation, or instigation of acts of terrorism. Did they actually ask you anything about terrorism?
No, No, they didn't ask me anything about terrorism, not one question about it. And I think it's really weird because I was in there for like 8 hours without talking to anybody outside, and like they're just like keep me. I have to ask them, do I have to answer this? And they just telling me like, if you don't answer this, you're gonna go to jail.
Yeah, hold on, John. This is like a red herring. This is.
Well, this is what I'm telling you from the beginning. Is the whole thing is a scam.
I just want to make this point. I just want to make this one point that the law is, of course, nonsensical. We have the same here, but they have every single right to ask him whatever they want in any fashion. It doesn't have to be just about terrorism. And the fact that you have actual journalists saying this means they are complicit in the scam because they know you can read it's in plain English that this is permissible.
The oversight guy who appeared on BBC Two, who is the guy who looks at these cases, said, and I'll have to get a clip for the Sunday show and I can do it, said specifically that if you can determine this person is not involved with terrorism, you don't keep him for 9 hours. Or he says of 60,000 people that were stopped.
Fine. This is a dumb argument. They can do whatever they want. We're in a police state, a worldwide police state. I'm just telling you what this guy. I'm just repeating what this guy said. I'm not arguing. No, then he's in some other intelligence agency. He's just fueling the fire. Maybe he just wants to write a book. Who knows? It's ridiculous. That part of the conversation is stupid. Really, I'm mad at that.
I'm just telling you that I think this whole thing was rigged by Greenwald to begin with.
Okay, all right.
I think the real kicker here is that Greenwald actually, this guy probably doesn't appreciate this, was hoping he'd get thrown in jail. Because they apparently threatened him with jail numerous times because he wouldn't answer questions. What are you bringing? What is this? What is that?
Why doesn't he just divorce the guy? Wouldn't that be easier? Just kick him out? It's like, dude, I'm tired of you now.
He doesn't want to divorce the guy. He wants publicity. He wants to be with the guy.
But that would be
my husband's in jail.
My partner's
in jail. Can you? On the show specifically, he called him his husband.
Oh, really? Okay. I thought they were not married. I could be wrong.
Well, maybe they're not. But he called Greenwald on the show that you recorded that clip from. Yeah. Specifically said my husband.
Okay. So. But here's the interesting thing that happened. Then we have The Guardian, and we have this. The spy who runs The Guardian, and doesn't that guy look like a British spy with his mop top hair? You've seen the editor?
Yeah, he looks like a guy.
Oh, he looks like a spy. And so all of a sudden he's like, we're going to destroy this laptop. And they publish a picture of like half a motherboard, and there's not even a drive in the picture. And then they have this big poo-ha about how they have to do this even though they have copies everywhere. The whole thing, it's like, we had Spy versus Spy in Mad Magazine, except now there's a black spy, a white spy, but there's a red one, there's a yellow one. I think all countries now have gotten confused, as to who's doing what, and they're all just running around trying to get on TV.
Well, they're doing a pretty good job of getting on TV.
Yeah, although no one. By the way,
does it bother you? Does it bother you that the milieu of spydom is such that I'd say a good 80 to 90% of them are identifiable? I mean, just like you said with that guy.
Yeah.
No, and these girls these women who show up on the various, especially on Fox, the ones who come in, they're the only brunettes in the operation, and they all look like spooks.
Well, you know what? I think I will say this about the intelligence services. I like their hiring policies because most of these girls, they're kind of hot. There's like they all have something going for them.
Well, that Valerie Plame was looking good.
Yeah, no. But I think that this is something that started a long time ago and said, look, I think we should get good-looking women to be spies, and most of them are in the U.S.
Well,
certainly.
If you remember the story, which we have to remind people to read, the newer listeners, which is Confessions of an Economic Hitman, he was solicited by one of these women.
Yeah, exactly.
And essentially sexed up to become, this character in the book.
It's the easiest way. I mean, look at it. That's how they get them all. That's how you bring down world leaders. At least for some reason, that's how it's done now. I'm not sure how that ever got to be a fireable offense or like so shocking. That used to be the norm in, certainly in France and other countries. Like, he has a mistress, whatever. And it wasn't a big deal. And now it's like, oh, it's so shocking. It's just,
it's never been it's never been accepted in the United States.
No, but why?
Well, everyone would trace it to our Puritan upbringings, a heritage of the country. And, you'd have to, during the Jeffersonian period, there's plenty of weirdness going on, but I don't know. It's just not... it's not religious or something. I have no idea.
Here's a question for you, John. In all of this, and then we have all these revelations about, and in fact, the Wall Street Journal, they kind of did an end around, and now we're back to stellar wind and all these things of sucking off the entire fiber optic data pipe, and 75% of the internet is now sucked up by the NSA. So we have all of these revelations. Where now, at this very moment, is Anonymous? Where's the big action? Where's all the outrage from? Where are the Guy Fawkes mask videos? Nowhere.
Well, a lot of people believe it's because the anonymous guy, there is an anonymous guy and he's in jail.
Yeah, but where's the movement Anonymous?
Apparently there was. It looks pretty weak now that you mention it, because if one guy goes to jail and the next thing you know, there's nothing going on.
Exactly. But not just one guy goes to jail. Anonymous, they did another like Scientology attack just a couple weeks ago. But when it comes to the real deal, to the real thing, where is it?
Well, maybe it was a front all along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's quite possible. Well, regardless, we have good news. The United States government. And we laughed about this when the president said he was going to build a website about the intelligence community's transparency. He built.
Why is the intelligence community supposed to have transparency when the White House doesn't?
But forget that. They built their website on Tumblr. Did you see this thing?
No. What's the name of it?
and I thought it was a hoax. It's IC on the record, India Charlie on the record.tumblr.com. And I'm like, at first I'm like, nah, this is a joke. But they've built their website, the transparency website, on Tumblr. Are you kidding me?
This looks like a joke.
But it's not.
Declassified.
I thought
additional
it was
declassified documents relating to Section 702 of FISA.
Here's what I had to go, because I looked for press releases on whitehouse.gov, couldn't find it. And then someone said, no, the Twitter account NSC Press, at NSC Press, they tweeted it. And I'm like, yeah, so what? And then, it turns out that's a verified account. And then at White House had retweeted it. This is the real deal. And they've got little locks that are unlocked.
Just cost $8 million?
Well, no, apparently, I don't know what the deal is, but it's just like, this is your transparency website on Tumblr?
Maybe they have stock in Yahoo or something. Who owns Tumblr? I think
Yahoo just bought it, yeah.
Which brings me to when you're done with this, I got to...
Well, Yahoo, by the way, who apparently now have surpassed Google in traffic. So, now, of course, we have Google is already 40% of the Internet's traffic. Apparently, Yahoo is the other 60%. So there's nothing else except Yahoo and Google on the Internet.
Well, this is, by the way, not to change the subject completely, extremely bad news for us. We got some note from a guy who sent it to you through your
through the bit message. Yeah, we have an insider at MailChimp. Yeah. MailChimp is a very largely used program or system for the mailing list, for marketing emails, but also for the No Agenda newsletter.
The entire system is somehow under attack. I think the untold story with that message, besides the fact that he would send it to you, it says he's a secret guy in the company, which is they help you anyway. I've sent notes and they say, oh, you should do this and that. He's not telling me anything we can't find out already. He sends it to you instead of to me. Everyone knows I do the mailing list. And I have the account. He would know that because it's you've got my email address. We are losing our ass on these mailings because our open rate has dropped from, I don't know, it used to average about 49 to 55%.
Oh, which is way above industry average as is.
Yes, way above industry average, but for newsletters, it's not really. It's, you really want to get a pretty high open rate because it's a newsletter. People subscribe to it. They volunteered to get it, or they get it because they donate, and then they can kill it. It dropped to 27%.
Wow.
Because of Google having this new promotions tab, which, by the way, you can go into your settings and turn all those tabs off.
Yeah, if you just turn the tabs off.
But nobody knows that. Most people can't figure anything out. So that goes on. The mailing that went out for this show, which was sent out on Wednesday, 11:30 Pacific time, never arrived in the Yahoo box.
Oh, really? Not in the Yahoo box?
At all. It
Wow.
didn't show up, and it didn't show up in Yahoo spam. Yahoo has a big spam box that you can look at.
Yeah.
But Google doesn't even do that. They just everything just disappears.
This big spam box known as Marissa Meyer. Hey-o.
So anyway, so there is something. The reason I think we got that note is something fishy's going on.
Hey, wait a minute, John. Are you telling me you're tracking people?
Who am I tracking?
You're tracking what they're doing with our newsletters.
Yes, I'm tracking these companies because you have to send out these dummy emails to different boxes and see what happens. So Yahoo doesn't show up at all. Google gets thrown into the promotions box, and people have complained to me that they have tried to move the.
Okay, so
you're supposed to be able to drag and drop. It doesn't work.
Now, I've tried that too, and people say that it'll pop up a message saying, "Do you want to always bypass the promotions tab or something like that?" I tried it, and I didn't get that message. I didn't get the message, and you can remove the you can actually remove the promotions tab, but there's another one too that's like the social tab or whatever.
Yeah, social network tab.
The whole point is it's very, very subtle what is going on here. But it's just a tip of the iceberg, really. I mean, people still don't understand that when they look at, Facebook, and I'm sure Twitter, if they're not already, they will be doing it, that you're not seeing everything from your friends. You're seeing whatever algorithm Facebook feels you should see from if you get, like, for people who use Facebook, you're like, hey, I haven't heard from so-and-so. I haven't seen anything on my timeline. Well, no, because you're just not being shown anymore. So you're open to manipulation, and it's not really nefarious other than to sell you crap one way or the other.
So anyway, it's a disaster for us. I think you're going to see the real decrease in donations because the newsletter reminds people to watch the show and also reminds people to contribute to the show. So we're getting slammed by both these services, and I think at least 60% of our users use Gmail, and I think the rest of them probably use Yahoo. We only had one person come in as an executive producer for today's show, and that came through the mail. We got absolutely nothing through email.
And it has to be. We can't understate really or overstate how important these. If I don't fire the bat signal as an example, people miss the show. They're like, oh, man, I didn't get the bat signal, and I forgot, I missed the show. Because, people's lives are busy, and they're not, contrary to what I would like, they're not thinking about the show all the time, and so people forget. So we have these newsletters, and, we have some information about what's upcoming on the show, and it's really a reminder that, hey, we're here, please check us out, and support the work as well. And if you're not receiving it, people just forget. They go on with their lives, and other things happen, distractions.
These things are being thrown away by these servers. Here, let me tell you, here's an example of the Yahoo situation. This is what really got to me because I'm looking at, I don't have the newsletter, doesn't show up. I go to the spam box, and the spam box has got a bunch of crap in it. Mostly, so-and-so wants you to be her Facebook friend. A bunch of solicitations for hookers, essentially, of different sorts.
This is a benefit.
There's a bunch of junk in there that is,
Are you getting the one? I'm getting this a lot. Hey, I missed you online the other day. Are you getting
this? We've seen all these.
They're good, though, because no matter how, you can't spam filter those out. They keep coming through. Hey, it's Miranda.
Yeah, well, you start checking now because these are not coming through. And here's the thing that got to me. So I'm looking in the spam box. There's a bunch of this kind of stuff you just described. And then I just saw this all, and looking for the newsletter, which wasn't even in there. So I just killed all that stuff, purged it. And then as soon as I went back to my now empty box, a huge ad from Yahoo shows up. Meet singles in Berkeley. Essentially stealing the business of these other spammers.
Yeah.
And by the way, that you can go around the country and go through the same process, and you'll see meet singles in St. Louis and take a screenshot of that. It's the same women. What are these women floating around in a bus? It doesn't make any. The whole thing that is just
wow.
An out and out fraud.
John,
and Yahoo's doing it.
You're telling me that the women they put in the ads aren't the ones you'll actually meet in Berkeley?
You won't meet anybody, by the way. So that's your first mistake. Thinking you're going to meet somebody. So this is a direct attack, a mercantile attack.
Yeah, that's what it is. Mercantile
small
attack.
Businesses, us. It's an attack on us and everyone else. So these companies who are trying to get their numbers up can steal the business in the case of Yahoo and these solicitations. Well, for Friend Finder.
So here's how it goes. Like, let me see if there's anything from No Agenda, any news. I'm like, no, I don't. Hey. These chicks look hot. Oh, wait a minute. Let me go check this website out. And they're gone. And then we're done. We're toast. Subverted by hookers.
Well, we're not subverted just by hookers. We're subverted by these free email service providers who have decided to go into business for themselves. And they're essentially going to start targeting their users with stuff that they want to sell them. And instead of giving them the free email service that they were promised. I mean, this whole thing is completely upside down. It's a disaster for us. It's obviously showed up in today's lack of
well, let's thank our one producer who sent in.
Nicholas Principe, I guess, Principe.
Principe.
He's in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Whatever his name is, he can call himself executive producer of episode 541. That's for sure.
And he'll be the executive producer. He did send a note. Let's see if I can find it. I got a bunch of notes here from different people. I think he's got the little one here. Yeah, he sent a longhand note. It's kind of a mishmash. ITM John and Adam. I'm finally correcting from boner to donor after several months of listening after I can't read that. No Agenda by something browsing of all the things he got it from the iTunes Music Store just out of the blue. He never got.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Voted. Anyway, you're all overdue for some value for value, so here it is, $333.33. Instead of any karma or anything, just let Adam come up with some jingles, a jingle combination of his own choosing. Keep up the good work. You all need as much support as you can get. The best value mac and cheese around, kind of thing.
Okay. I get to do well since he is the sole executive producer due to clearly our failed promotions, thanks to the promotions of the free email services, I get to do a nice long little sequence.
It's the weekly Hooker Report.
Intelligence work takes place within a strong legal framework. We operate under the rule of law and are accountable for it. In some countries, secret intelligence is used to control their people. In ours, it only exists to protect their freedoms. Protect their freedoms. Protect their freedoms.
Yay! There you go.
That's still one of the great clips.
And thank you, Nicholas. Highly appreciate that. Then don't wait for an email to show up to remind you. Let me remind you right now.
Dvorak.org/NA.
We need you to support our show because I see what you're talking about. I'm looking at the spreadsheet. We're going to have a short donation segment as well today.
So the thing, and I use the word The thing that is going on is and I think if I was MailChimp, I'd be freaked because I think people are going to start noticing that this is going on.
It's quite the opposite. You know, the reality may be different, but I'll find it for you. The CEO of MailChimp he's cavalier about this. Really cavalier. And you got to think that the only reason why, because here's how I would see it play out. I'm going to search for this right now for the MailChimp guy. Here's how I'd see it play out. I would have sanctioned for a fee, which is what it's going to come down to. Like, if you want to reach outside of the promotions tab, well, then you're going to have to pay some extra money, probably to MailChimp, who will then we're being charged by Google. This is how the shakedown works. We already have this. You have whitelist in the email space. If you start a company today and you have users who need to retrieve a password, do not think that they can just retrieve your password or get your company emails. You will have to go through a whitelisting service, which can cost upwards of $100,000 a year just to be whitelisted on the big so-called free email providers. We've been through this, John. We've seen this happen.
Yeah, no, this is getting to be a real problem with the bypass is simply using
tax. It's going to be a tax. It's going to be a bypass.
Yeah, it's a fee. In fact, I bet you MailChimp and Constant Contact and 2 or 3 other of these services that are the big ones that are being, I think, extorted are probably say, yeah, well, you see they have certain IPs. It comes through and you're Google or Yahoo and you say, yeah, throw that in the promotions tab. If it's coming from MailChimp, it's not personal email.
Can I just say, John?
And you can I could be in a meeting and say that.
Deeper. It's much deeper than that. All these guys are hooked up to. It's not. It'll come to me in a moment. The name of the service, but there's all these transport providers that if you don't use that, then you're automatically suspicious. Because I've been deep into this by rebuilding my mail server and. I was like, I thought I'll just write a little giblet about this. It's not easy. And it's easy to get it set up, but then to figure out how do you deal with spam yourself? That's one part of it, the incoming. But the other part is how do you tell other mail services that you're not spam? And this is very, very complicated. Now, it's doable, but there's a lot of hoops, and these guys, it's cartel forming essentially. These guys they've got it all nailed down, and it's only a matter of time before they start charging you money to send. I mean, if I could do it, that would be my service, guaranteed email delivery, because you can't guarantee your email is going to arrive anymore because of all of this stuff. There's and the Mail, I can't find the article, but the MailChimp guy. I'm telling you, he's too smug about this. Maybe a little dip. We're not too worried about it. Blah, blah. Oh, yeah, okay. All right, so when is the premium service coming? You watch. Put it in the book.
Yeah, well, there's definitely going to be gouging involved because that's the way you do it. But it just seems to be we're looking at essentially what amounts to criminal enterprise in every direction, from everywhere.
Well,
and the top guys, Google and Yahoo, like you said, they're number 1 and 2. They're the top of this racketeering.
It is, and here's what's going to happen because they're hurting small business. We're small business. We are very small business, but we employ one. Besides us, we employ Eric the shill, and I think that may even be it's below minimum wage, so it's probably illegal. But it's hurting us, and so if people continue to let this grow and to let these what did you call it, the criminal enterprise continue to suppress everything, you're going to wind up with really shitty shows to listen to because we'll be off. We'll be done. We'll move on to do something else. And, I don't know what's left. Enjoy. It's good luck with that.
Yeah, well, actually, there's nothing else. But
not really.
No, this situation is completely out of control. The only thing I can recommend for people is to kill those tabs on their Google Gmail.
Stop using it.
Get off of Gmail.
Yeah, just stop using it. Stop using it.
But how are you going to do that when even most of the companies now? I was looking at. Here's the thing. We had an article about us in one of the large German newspapers,
yeah, which was a nice article, actually.
Yeah, we'll link to it in the show notes. And I tweeted about it.
Yeah, it's in the show notes. You're right. I tweeted about it, too.
So I went to the translate services.
The translation was mediocre.
And it was terrible. It wasn't even close. It was very, modern German, and apparently Google can't even, so it goes to Google Translate immediately. And it does the crappiest job of translation. You wouldn't know what this article was about. It's not even close.
Can I read a passage?
Wait, let me finish this little complaint.
Go ahead.
So I said, well, there's a lot of alternatives. So I go to another one, and then it redirects me to Google Translate.
Yeah.
There used to be like 10 of these things, and now they're all Google Translate? When did that happen?
Among all the expectations brought to the internet but were disappointed, Bertolt Brecht's radio theory was after that. That's a very famous the writer, old school. Was every small producer's brought an audience will one of the most durable. The internet has the institutions but not overcome. But on the contrary, it has created giant multi-billion-dollar corporations, small media institutions that resist this development, fighting for their economic freedom. They are mostly dependent on advertising revenues. That a public media offer an independent, sustainable, and directly funded remains an unfulfilled desire. I sound like one of those, like the entertainment reporters who get their brains scrambled at like the award show.
Yeah.
Maybe they're run by Google Translate. They're actually German spies.
This translation is not even close to anything functional.
Well, it tells me that it's not really possible. It's just not, it's not that easy.
No, we know that. But I remember there being a couple of services that were a lot better than this.
I've because I speak two languages
fluently. I know what you're saying, and I agree with you that generally speaking, it's impossible. But it doesn't have to be this bad.
What you're saying is that at least what came out the other side was, it may not have been entirely correct, but at least it was English.
Well, at least you can kind of figure out what they were talking about. This thing is impossible. You can't figure out what they're talking about. Something about our show.
And there's a picture of you.
And you're in a sports car. What is that?
That's a picture from 2006, and it's not a sports car. It's no, it is. That's my Audi. When I had an Audi.
Oh, I always thought you had an innie.
Squirrel. All right, I'd want to, as a PR mention here, I'd like to thank the producer. I don't know his name, but I have the link in the show notes at 541.nashownotes.com, who is producing the No Agenda Dashcam video, which is great. So essentially, it's him listening to a No Agenda episode while you're watching the road. So it's quite mesmerizing.
I can do that.
It's pretty mesmerizing. You're just sitting there, just watching him drive along the highway, looking out the front, and you're listening to the show. It's kind of like if you don't have a commute. It's like, here, have a commute while you're enjoying the show. It's kind of good. I like it. It's a fun idea. And in the morning to you, John C. Dvorak.
In the morning to you, Adam Curry. In the morning to all the ships at sea, boots on the ground, feet in the air, and subs in the water, along with the knights and dames out there.
Yes, and I'd also like to say in the morning to all of the human resources in the chat room, noagendastream.com, noagendachat.net. Good to have you all here and depleting your $9.2 million value. And thank you very much to our artist, Nick the Rat, who came in. Good to see Nick the Rat back. He had a great piece of art for our album art for episode 540. You can see all of the submissions at noagendaartgenerator.com and throw something in yourself. We choose it right after the show, and we are always appreciative of the work that all of our artists do. And, of course, whether you donate or not, please consider propagating our formula.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
Order!
Shut up, slave!
Shut up, slave!
And I do want to say one thing following on the email server conversation. So I'm a disc jockey, really. I mean, I've not had any classical training. I'm not a programmer. I'm just a guy who's been interested. And if you take the time to read, and I'll say this too, because there's a whole generation who have grown up with computers. And actually, my lovely wife, Miss Mickey, used to be this way. And here's what it is. So the computer tells you something, and sometimes it's recently it's been, I got a rejection message from your mail server. It didn't work. And I'll say, well, what did the message say? I don't know. I threw it out. So, well, there's actually information in there that might say, I couldn't find the address. I'll try again. Your attachment was too large.
Or you spelled the name wrong.
Or you spelled the name wrong. So there is, and I will be the first to admit that engineers make shitty informational messaging. And we all have seen the funny dialogue boxes that pop up on programs. But if you take the time, because I've seen this happen, people go like, oh, bloom, I got an error, click. They click it away without reading what it said. And you're not going to learn anything about, you're not going to get any further without reading what is being said. Now, yes, it's often written by an engineer, sometimes not even, where English is not his first language, and you have to think about what is he actually saying, but at least you have part of that information. This is still, 10 years ago, we didn't have any of this. So you've got to participate in the system and help make it better and learn a little bit. And you can learn how to run a Linux box. You can learn how to set up an email server. Everyone wants an app, like a one-click install app. It's not going to happen. Okay, it's not going to happen for email. You're going to have to learn how to do it. But guess what? It's free. It's virtually free, the software that's available. Then if you want, you can set up a virtual server on Rackspace or somewhere else, and which you can kill, so it'll cost you like $2 to experiment if you do it for 2 days. But you've got to do something. And it's not like brain surgery. These things are written in English.
Some people don't have the time for it. They're working for a living. They have a family to raise. They expect to go to Yahoo Mail and get their mail when it was sent to them. Well, and sure, they're going to have a bunch of crap in there too. But if something like, I went to LinkedIn, and now LinkedIn is trying to become Facebook. So they got all these news feeds and people's commentaries and whatever. And somebody wrote an article. It was right on the front page, and it said, "Oh, this is now that Google's put the promotions tab on. This is such an improvement. It ends the cold calling. It ends this. It ends that."
Okay,
I'm reading this idiot, and so I write a nasty note. I said, "This is bull crap." There are people all the newsletter people out there, and there's tons of them. Your newsletter is not going to get through anymore because Google's decided that it's not something somebody wants.
Now, let me just finish my thought here for a second, because it plays right into that. So everybody, even if you work really, really hard, okay, everybody has a day or two off. And if it doesn't bother you, if this is all great and you're happy that you don't get the spam anymore, well, fantastic. Then whatever. Then you deal with your life the way you want to. But it's not just about an email server. It's all of these things. It's like learning how your car works. We don't know that anymore either. And these things are good skills to have. It's also, it can be fun. And I have to say, here at home, even just Miss Mickey just taking the time to read the dialogues has gone from me being a full-time IT support person for her to a husband and a lover. It's really improved a lot of things in our life. And she says, she'll come down, she'll go, "Hey, man, I fixed it myself." And she's really proud of what she's done. And she knows now, like, hey, I'm going to take a trip. I did not upgrade my iOS software. Yeah, you're great. Fantastic. And it's these little things. And if you take a little bit of time, it's going to make your life that much better. And maybe you'll think of something new that you can do that's better than email or better than the established apps and systems that we have. And you know what? Make your kids do it. Tell your kids to go learn how to do this stuff. Now, about reading.
Jeez.
Well, I think it's important. I think
your lecture's fine. I think it's falling on deaf ears.
Maybe. About reading. Okay. So, and I said so. The coroner report came out regarding the Michael Hastings autopsy. I'm sure you've heard of this, John.
I've heard of it, yes. Yes, I thought he was cremated.
That turns out to be not true.
Well, that's nice to know.
Yeah. Gee, we called that biatch out early. Okay, did you read any articles about the results of this toxicology?
None whatsoever.
Really? You're full of shit. You know you did.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even know who this guy is.
Come on, help me out a little bit.
All right, what?
All right, so Michael Hastings, we all wanted to know, what happened. He moved in, he drove his brand new Mercedes into a tree, killed on impact.
At 100 miles an hour, and it exploded, even though the Mercedes company itself went out of their way to say, our cars are designed not to do what happened there. This is, and they said this is bogus.
Exactly. And for some reason now my mouse is just freaked out, which is never a good thing. Hold on. What is going on here?
Those mouse. I always never trusted the mouse. I still don't think they're going to make it long term.
I don't think this thing will ever really work out as a system.
Never going to happen.
Never going to happen. All right. So now what they say, I'm going to read the, okay. So the reporting in general is, oh my God, he had in his system, methamphetamine, DMT, marijuana. It's like it just didn't stop. It did not stop, and every
it was burnt to a crisp. I'd like to know how they got this information, but okay.
Okay, well, so I have the coroner report, and I have the lab report, and I have the police report, and also apparently when the two cops went to his family's house, they were like, here upon inquiry, this family member believed decedent. Is that another word for deceased? Decedent?
I think the deceased is the way I'd phrase it.
Decedent. Decedent?
It wouldn't be decedent.
Decedent?
Decedent. The decedent. But it usually refers to like your son or your some decedent.
Weird, isn't it? Well, anyway,
I don't know. Anyway, we could continue.
The dead guy was currently using DMT, confirmed use of medical marijuana, as well as...
You can't drive on DMT.
well, that's just... So...
You can't even stand up.
No, that's not true.
Okay, you can stand up.
You can totally.
So you're going to take DMT, which is an hour-long, ridiculous situation.
Let me move you beyond all this, okay? Because this is the conversation that your alternative media are already having. So there's a couple of things that are weird. So one is the body was charred. It literally says the eyes were cooked. The coroner writes this, which is what coroner writes down a medical.
Well, you got a list. It says eyes, and then next to it you put cooked.
It literally says there's heavy charring of the entire head and neck. The scalp over the calvaria is completely burned off. The face is unrecognizable and completely charred. The eyes are cooked. The tongue protrudes, and is thoroughly blackened. So he had his tongue sticking out, which is kind of like a Haldol thing.
Screaming.
There's moderate charring over the neck and left shoulder area. So it's all disgusting. Now, the actual cause of death is, of course, high speed into an immovable object. So you never die of speed, but the lack of speed. But it went through his right leg, which I thought was interesting. So he died because of his leg being stuck on the accelerator, and that compounds, if you read this report, compounds all the way through, and that basically kills you in seconds, which is kind of interesting. So everyone is, if you look at like Chunk, who I guess, did he work with Chunk and those guys on the Young Turks?
He was on the show a lot, or a couple of times, and I think they got along.
And they're all freaking out about, this is an outrage. He didn't really have it in his system. It might have been weeks ago, and you can't drive. That didn't happen, and no one reads the report. No one reads the report. I'm like, okay,
that's your imitation of Chunk.
That's and the woman who's on the show.
Yeah.
So let me tell you what I really found in the report. So we have the autopsy report and we have the lab report, okay? And the lab sends back information about what they actually found. And there's a lot of NDs, but then they find carboxy THC, some other THC, some meth, some amphetamine, a couple other things. So they have I have no idea what the values mean. That's not what I'm going to debate. But here's what I saw, which I thought was rather interesting. So the source was the chest blood, and the container type was the red top tube. And okay, so that was what the lab used. And then you go back into the coroner's report, and here's toxicology. I collected chest blood and put it in a purple top tube. Oh, really? I think I would see the difference between red and purple. How about you?
Yeah, seems so. Yeah.
I'm thinking the blood was switched.
Oh, that could be.
And if not,
I mean, if DMT was reported, there's something fishy about that. Let's face it.
If not, there's a huge discrepancy between purple and red. You can't have this. You can't have, one report saying we put it in the purple top tube, and the other report saying we put it in the red top tube. And,
right.
And why is no one screaming about that? I'm going to tell you, this is not even his blood.
No, it's probably some rigged blood.
Yeah, trick blood. Yeah, John. It's
rigged. You know what I mean? They got some bunch of. Hey, you got any blood over there? Some DMT in it? Yeah, they do.
I got some right here.
What else is in there? Well, we can put this stuff in ourselves.
It's just like.
Well, what's the point of having this report with the blood? I mean, whether it's his blood or not, it's.
The whole idea is to prove that, whatever happened.
Oh, it's because he was stoned.
Exactly. That and it's closed. It's done.
I don't know about you, but
it's closed. It's done. It's done. It's over. There will never be a discussion.
THC and some of these other. You don't drive around and you go, holy shit! I hope I can get to. Let me just creep along at 10 miles an hour.
I know.
If
you're stoned, you're like, oh man. Oh, dude.
Oh, man, it's just going too fast.
15 is way out of my league. Yeah. And DMT, you can walk, no problem, but you're not going to... Well, the DMT is only 20 minutes, and after that, it's in your system, but you're not high from it. This I can speak on some authority.
So I said it again. Damn.
I know it's. I know
the soap thing is a problem.
It sucks. If you just listen.
At least I think we've got amazing out of our systems.
Yeah, but the so thing is really bad, and it's almost
insidious.
It is because it's not even doing anything other than focusing. No.
You might as well be a Hummer.
I don't. No, I'd rather you be a sower. Sowers are better than Hummers any day. It is. It is the method of grabbing someone, actually grabbing the attention towards you in a conversation, and breaking. There's also an incessant need. Now, on the show like this, I like having silence, but it's an incessant need for people to never have a moment of silence, for thought, and. That's another is another way of doing it, obviously. But I hear people doing it to each other the whole time. So how you doing? So I'm okay. So where are you going to go this weekend? So I was thinking, listen, when you start really paying attention to it, it's scary and
it's bad.
And I've gotten pretty good at not doing it. But I've stopped saying to people, man, you're really heavy on the so stuff. I've stopped because
you have to because nobody hears it. You don't hear yourself saying it. To be self-aware enough to catch yourself, which we've done twice or three times on the show already, it takes a lot of effort.
But let's admit it's bad, and we're doing it too, and it's really bad, and we got to stop.
We were doing a fact of the matter. You or somebody put together that clip of us. I guess
fact of the matter.
Fact of the matter. It was embarrassing.
Well, especially when we call people out on that stuff all the time. Hey, have you noticed this? This is a very disturbing new trend. And it's working very well, and I picked it up on Facebook. I go to Facebook maybe once every 2 days. Usually when Mickey says, hey, did you see what so-and-so put on my Facebook? I'm like, no, don't even ask me. And the only reason why I really got Facebook and still have it is to keep tabs on my daughter. That's kind of where she's at, so I want to make sure I see everything. But I'm always the terrorist guy. I'm always saying horrible things. I post horrible things.
You're a bad Facebook person.
I do it to Mimi a lot, too, by the way, who has picked up her Facebooking. Somehow she's appeared on the radar again. Maybe Facebook decided I could see her posts again. And what's happened is I keep seeing these videos over and over again, and it's always kind of the same thing. Kid tells grown-ups where it's at. Teenager schools journalist. And what is happening is the radical left, I will say the Greenies, which I'm not against because there's also a big anti-GM movement, have trained their kids into becoming spokespeople for any type of mission. And it's kind of scary Have you noticed that it's a trend? The new well, so here's this 14-year-old girl, and she called out. I'm going to say this was a Canadian news guy saying, hey, you need to shut up about genetically modified food. We're the future, and what do you know? And she called him fascist, which was incorrect, actually. And everyone was like, oh, that's funny. But she used it incorrectly because we know what fascism really is. No, she meant like a totalitarian, maybe. Dictator. And so they invite her onto their show. And listen to her talk, and then I have another example of one of these kids. And you tell me that this kid has not been trained and doing a very good job.
Yeah, that was 14-year-old Rachel Parent throwing down the gauntlet to Kevin. The teen activist is passionate about genetically modified food and, as you just heard, takes issue with a lot of things Kevin has to say on the subject, including a show that we did some time ago. Rachel's an activist and the founder of Kids Right to Know. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me here today.
Yeah, right there. So I'm already done. I'm like, oh, okay, that's exactly how you're trained to do it in PR school.
I want to start with how you came to be passionate about this. What was it about GMO that actually drew you in the first place?
I know. I didn't want to make a joke about it, but you went there. Who was this? This is the Canadian Boot Show.
Well, originally I had to do a speech for my school, and I really wasn't sure what to do it on. So I was researching these different topics, and I realized that GMOs actually affected everything. So I decided to go with GMOs and researched it more and more, and then eventually I just got so into it protesting and got so into it I started doing speeches for other people.
Yeah. I listened to this, and it is brilliant, but it's not right in a number of ways. You're pushing a kid onto a stage who at a very young age has really been trained to do this, and people find it difficult to confront a child. And it's this whole, and then people who are on board with the whatever the child is pushing are like, yeah, this is what kids do. This kid's great. Wish my kid would like that. It's weird, and it's a little twisted and sick.
Who are the other people you're doing speeches for?
I actually go to schools, and I also do speeches at protests and different conferences as well.
I mean, the kids should be playing with Barbie dolls. It's okay, you can have a mission, but you don't have to be this prodigy,
The line in there, I do it at protests, because you can just see some little kid coming up. The right-wingers had a guy like this. It was a little kid who was was a writer, and he's actually pretty smart, but he was like, I think, 12. And he'd go into these, he'd go up to the podium, and the message was, if this little kid knows this,
yes.
They're so smart. I mean, if the little kid, by the way, I have done the same trick with people in computers. I do it all the time. I say, well, heck, somebody's bitching at me. Go, I can't get this to work. Similar to the little lecture you just had a minute ago. My thing was always, hey, if a 10-year-old can do it, you can do it. That is essentially what the message is here.
Yeah, but it's
10-year-old,
and that's okay to say it, but it's not okay to push your kid to do it.
Well, there's a couple of things here. One, this is on a broadcast show. I believe this is an extortion vehicle, as they all are.
Yes.
Monsanto's not advertising enough. Let's go after.
Wait. Let me play the other kid I've got. This is Straw Boy. This is another one of my favorites.
A young man left a message for us the other day.
Oh, wow. The kid sitting around playing with his Green Army men and thinks, I got to call up NPR. I got to set them straight.
Hi, I have some exciting news to report.
How good is that?
My name's Milo, founder and spokesperson for an environmental organization, and I live in Longmont. Governor Hickenlooper just formally recognized my organization with a proclamation. The name of my organization is Be Straw Free.
Did you catch that? Be Straw Free. 12-year-old Milo Kress is disturbed by how many drinking straws people use and toss out.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
I'm telling you, this has to stop people.
Be straw free? I don't know who they're extorting on that one. Flavor Straw? Maybe they want to get him back into the game. I have no idea.
It's a 7-minute report, but it's not the point.
7 minutes of that?
7 minutes on NPR. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
my
really...
God. That's the clip of the day. Hit it.
Oh, really? Really? Oh, man. I was not expecting that. Thank you. Hold on.
Clip of the day.
Well,
Be straw free.
Our national treasure is crumbling, though, John.
Well, that's been going on since we began the show.
Well, but it got a little more interesting this past week as Howard A. Cannell, the CEO who just came in like a year and a half ago, quit. So this is their 8th CEO in 3
they
years.
Keep plowing through them. So I don't know what's going on. That this is there's a story behind this.
Well, yes, indeed. I think I've learned a couple of things. Because there was a speech, an interview that was done with him about a year into his tenure at the Harvard. Was it the Nieman Journalism? Bunch of hoity-toity dipshits who think they're all that in a bag of chips, by the way. What is this? Is that the J School at Harvard?
There's a good one.
Bag of chips?
That and a bag of chips.
I think that came from my mom.
Sounds English.
Well, it came from she was from New England, if that helps. All that in a bag of chips. Yeah. Well, okay.
Back.
So it was a Nieman. Is it the Nieman School of Journalism?
Did Harvard School of Journalism? Any school of journalism from Harvard doesn't sound right.
Exactly. And he was being interviewed, and a couple of things came out that was very interesting. I'm going to play two of them. The one clip I don't have, though, is that I think it was 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, someone died, some rich effer died, and left NPR $250 million. And I think that money is now gone. And that's what the whole infrastructure was riding on. And
they built a big new skyscraper.
Yeah, well,
they closed their rather nice offices and built a skyscraper, and they were spending money left and right. They were riding high.
So this Howard Nell guy, I think he figured it out, but he found out a couple more things. I have two clips, one real short one here, and this is before the news of him quitting. And here's something that I found interesting to start off with.
So I think you got to just keep pushing at this stuff. I think you just got to keep trying. I think the audience is going to demand more and more. Maybe podcasts weren't the thing to do. Podcasts are sort of peaking anyway because it's all up in the cloud now that you can pull down. And I've been joking with people that
well, hold on. Stop. What kind of logic is this?
Well, remember, this is a guy who has no idea what he's talking about. That's why it's so
that
interesting.
I get. But what even if he doesn't know what he's talking about, where's the logic of, podcasts are dying because they're up in the cloud?
Well, you interrupt.
Why would that make them die? Well, I mean, what's the connection? Is cloud, if you're in the cloud, it comes back to the people in the toxic fume?
Okay. I'm going to give you the answer. The answer comes in two parts. So, first of all, he's saying maybe we shouldn't have done podcasts. And I know why he's saying that, but I'm not going to tell you just now. We'll let it sit for a second. But he goes into this, they're up in the cloud. That is for a joke setup that he has. That is the unfunniest joke in the world, which we will now hear.
Anyway, because it's all up in the cloud now that you can pull down. And I've been joking with people that I think this was part of Apple's plan to have Steve Jobs up there actually controlling the whole thing.
What an asshole.
Wow.
Right?
That's bad.
That's
bad material.
Asshole. Like, not good material.
No.
But what he figured out is that podcasts, and I'm going to take big credit for this now, has actually ruined their business. This is very exciting. And there's a couple other things that are ruining the business, as you'll hear in this clip, where he talks. Just listen to him talk about what's happening with their business model.
It's a tougher question. And the biggest challenge, to be honest, much more than federal funding as an issue, is the digital disruption of news and media. And my goal with my colleagues, like Kinsey Wilson and other people who are much smarter than I am about seeing these things, is to take the public radio mission and model and to transition it into a public radio mission and model that will continue on in a changed contextual world. So
I can't stop.
No, you got to listen. You got to listen.
You got to back it up because he's like I don't know. Even
we don't have to back it up because he's leading up to saying that
but it's just like confused logic.
Okay, there's a couple things. When you have a CEO of a multi-$100 million corporation who says things like, "Well, I work with my colleague so and so who is much smarter than I am," that's a red flag. You would never hear Steve Jobs say, "Oh, even though it's true, that engineer over there is much smarter than I am." This is not the words of a leader.
It's not CEO speak.
No. And by the way, he went off to the National Geographic Society to run that. Now listen, because he's going to tell you that the model has failed, but it comes out in a way that these bozos don't even know what's happening to them.
You have to be in things like connected cars, and for those of you who don't know what that is, this is really about all of the auto manufacturers are now basically embedding internet radios into their cars.
This is good news for us, by the way, except it's bad news for them.
So if you watch a lot of shows with car ads right now, they're all about the information systems. It's Pandora and Google, and it has nothing to do with the cars. It's kind of like they're going to pour lattes for you in your car and everything else. But it's all about information systems. And so what we did is about a year ago, we hopped on this and did a deal with Ford as our first partner.
There's your little partnership, your little fascistic partnership.
To make sure that public radio and NPR had a voice-activated command in those cars. So if you come in, you can go Morning Edition, and it will pull up the last version of Morning Edition at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Woo!
Or if you want to hear just science segments, it will pull down the last 10 science segments that appeared on Morning Edition.
Well, and interestingly, and this is I think the thing that was to me the most novel in this is you can sit in your car in Boston and ask for programming from WBEZ in Chicago. So you can both time travel and travel geographically across the network.
Yeah, which then creates all kinds of issues around the business model.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, this is a problem they've had since the get-go. In fact, this is a problem you've noted on the Dish Network and these systems, cable systems can do it, is that you can't, in fact, they try to keep you from doing it as best they can, but it's shoveling, crap against the tide because there's people, if I'm from Seattle and I move to San Francisco and I have a Dish Network connection, there's no reason in the world that they can't just give me the feed from the Seattle stations. It's very doable. It's on the same bird. But they won't do it because because these stations go, "Oh God, you're going to kill us." But there's two arguments here. Then maybe you could shed some light on the confusion because it's always confused me, and it goes like this: I'm a station in Jersey. I've got my rates. I got my local audience. I know everything. I know my numbers. I know my local numbers. I know everything, and I'm selling ads to these people and for the local market.
Right.
The cable companies, let's say cable, let's say the Dish Network, let's say any of them, they grab my signal, the Jersey signal from, WXXX, and they send it all over the place, let's say, or just to Texas or to California. The station will squawk about it. Oh, why would the station squawk about it when it's giving their advertisers free kind of...
Stop. Okay, first of all, I'm not going to talk about Dish Network. I'm going to talk about NPR specifically because that is what we're talking. That if we have competition, it's NPR. NPR, if you turn on so these are all local stations. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting or whatever it is, there's a company, it's a for-profit company that sells the ads, but really is managing all of the money for the government money that they get. There's some corporate big time foundation stuff that comes in, but that seems to be dwindling, and they order the national programming. All these other stations are all locally owned and operated, and they sell spots in a local market. If you listen to NPR, you're not hearing very many national ads. In fact, very, very few, and it's all advertising. So yes, this
No.
Hear me out. I know this shit really well, John.
I know. I hear nothing but at national ads.
No, you will hear on a national show, which is because you have all these small, locally produced programs which are not national ads. You will hear thanks to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You'll hear a couple of other foundation grants. People just like you, John. They're all local ads. I'm telling you, it is 80% local ads on these stations. Except for the big shows that you might listen to, that like Morning Edition, you might catch that, or God forbid Car Talk. Then you'll have a couple of national ads. The majority of what these stations run on, their money, because they're not getting anything from the national ad. They don't have to pay for the programming. See, they get the free morning edition. And then there's national ads in there, and they get a spot open for their local ads. There is no organization. NPR is not one big group. They're dead in the water because the little guys can only sell local ads, and that's dwindling. This is where you're supposed to say so.
I'm not going to use the word so. so it's just blank.
They are dead. They are dead because they're and then the local guy wants money.
Hold on.
The local guy wants to have money.
And now you're yakking away.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. What you're saying is that they can't stand competition.
What I'm saying,
if you boil it down,
no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying,
that's what I'm saying. Okay.
Well, you asked rhetorically. What I'm saying. Yeah, is that there is no longer a need for broadcast networks. This is inherently against the distribution method and networks that we are now utilizing. There is no need. In fact, it is a drain on all of the combined resources, where it used to be in a single distribution system where you have a license and you're the only one that can broadcast. And with cable, that started to pilfer out a little bit, but it's still limited by how many channels can be carried and channel number, et cetera, bandwidth. That made sense to be rolled up into a network. It is the inverse now, which is the only reason why we're going to hopefully survive. If we can still get our emails through Gmail, we'll be okay. But they're dead.
I'm not so sure. If you take your logical argument to an extreme, I'm not so sure it's good for anybody. Because what it sounds like to me, using what you said, and I'm not going to argue the finer points of this because I think you're generally correct. But if everything's going to consolidate into national broadcasters that are taking only national ads because the local guys can't compete with the quality of those things, and I believe, by the way, this could happen to education, especially online education, because if you can take a history course from the best historian who really knows his stuff, why would you take a course from some schlub that's a local guy? So let's start consolidating everything. Well, that means you get completely trampled as a little guy trying to, even if you're competing, because you're going to get cut out.
No,
how do you get cut out? You're not going to get. You say, "Well, it's great for us to be on the fort." They'll just. Here's what happens. It happened with cable versus the terrestrial, which is like you had to pay to do it one way. You're doing everybody a favor with CCTV when it began, when cable began. Oh, I'm doing you a favor, and then next thing you know, now I'm charging you. Yeah, I'm giving you extra coverage. You're going to have to pay me, and that's what happened with Time Warner and CBS.
I think
they
you're
want more money.
But you're misunderstanding something. That is already happening in affiliate. If you want to put if you want to syndicate a television show and you go to all the local affiliates, they're now saying, oh yeah, we'll take your show, you have to pay us to be on, and you can sell your own damn commercials. But I'm talking about internet distribution, podcasts, like what we're doing right now. That's where the future is. But we're never going to be rich. Never ever are we going to be rich from this. It's okay, we'll get by, but we're not going to be rich. But there is no stopping us in this model if you remove the advertising from it. But I think all these other guys are fucked. They truly are.
They're totally hosed. There's no doubt about it. For a lot of different reasons. I think yours is just one of many. But
well, they also just suck.
I'm not convinced that this is really opening it up the smaller shows.
What you're here? No, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying smaller shows. I'm saying that the idea of a network with affiliates
I'm not going to argue that.
Is dead. And all right, no,
it doesn't make any sense for it to exist if you think about it.
Yes, and that's why the guy's bailing. That's my point. What? The guy's like, holy crap, this thing is coming down. I'm bailing out. Funny how no one's reporting on it. All right, we got a couple of tweets about Gibraltar. Yeah.
Did you look into it?
Yeah, I did.
What's going on?
Well, it's really simple. The Straits of Gibraltar, everyone please go to maps.google.com right now. Why don't you John, let's do that together. It's always fun to do that.
Okay.
And this is something that unfortunately just isn't done anymore. Okay, so maps. You there?
No.
Really? How hard is that? You can also go to maps.yahoo.com if you so prefer.
The problem is I put in naps.
Naps?
Naps.google.com, and there's apparently no initiative going on at Google that helps people with naps. All right.
All right, and then let's enter Gibraltar. Okay. All right, and you'll have to zoom out a little bit. And what do we see? What is the Strait
I got a bunch of stuff in California. Cafe Gibraltar, Ventura, California. There's something called trips. Somebody taking trips. So I did not get the.
Try again. It should be. Just say Gibraltar.
I actually put Straits of Gibraltar, and now I got the Straits Cafe in San Jose. This is great. This Google. I got Straits Cafe Singapore. I got Straits Cafe in Palo Alto. So Straits of Gibraltar doesn't work. Let's see. What else could I do? Gibraltar doesn't work, and Straits of Gibraltar doesn't work. It keeps me in California. And I'm not even signed in.
Just do Gibraltar and don't be so. Just get there. Just get there already. Or answer this question to me.
I'm looking.
What is
got it.
What is the significance of the Strait of Gibraltar? What happens there?
Oh, I'm sure oil tankers go through.
Well, look at what does it connect? Oh, never mind. I'm
looking at it.
You're
now.
Playing dumb with me. The Straits of Gibraltar, which is between the southern part of Spain and the northern part of Casablanca, which is a British protectorate. It doesn't belong to Spain. The Brits, and this has been an ongoing dispute for centuries, since 1700s. It connects the Atlantic Ocean with the Mediterranean. So if you need to get a warship in there, I don't know, like a Russian warship, or if you need to get something else because you're going over to Northern Africa, Libya, Egypt, Israel,
Yeah, okay. So what's your point?
Well, what is happening right now in the Straits of Gibraltar? War games with British warships. They're positioning.
So what? To take over Gibraltar? They already own it.
No, they're getting in there because the war is going to be in the Mediterranean.
You're predicting a war, and so you think that this action in Gibraltar...
There's Russian subs already in the Mediterranean Sea. The only other place they can go, which is why the U.S. is still providing aid to Egypt, is through the Suez Canal. So there's only really two ways in. You got to have both of them. So remember, this is all about British and American oil and gas interests. So they're putting all their ships there, and the Russians are there with their subs. This is big. Yeah.
I'm looking at the map. So Gibraltar's a little like a dot that's sitting there that's got nothing to do with it. It's not even the closest thing to the strait itself, which is Tarifa in Spain.
But who runs the straits? Who runs the straits? Gibraltar is its own state essentially. But if you look at the history of Gibraltar, which is has been protected of the Brits. This is all about controlling the access to what goes in and comes out of the Straits of Gibraltar for the forthcoming crap that is going down that probably won't even be reported on.
Well, we've seen plenty of that. All right.
And we have Russian submarines now in the Mediterranean Sea. And we have the largest gas deposits found ever, all right there in the Mediterranean. Cyprus, Greece, Turkey. No, this is all a part of a bigger game. It is not just so when you're reading something about Gibraltar, and I would, quite frankly, I was also look, whatever, Gibraltar gives a crap. I don't know what's going on there. Isn't that near Marbella where people go on vacation? But then when you see that there's warships there now.
Yeah, but let's say Gibraltar was taken over by the Spanish. Would that make any difference? Would the Spanish say, "Oh, we're cutting it off"?
What if
the Spanish are on the same side?
Yeah, but what if? So what if really?
Pretty much.
And if Spain melts down into disarray?
Well, that could happen.
Which could happen at any time. And they're even talking about the southern half of Spain reverting back to Africa. Then what? No, I think you want to preempt that by setting up your big-ass ships right there, saying, hey, whatever happens, we're here and we're holding down the fort, literally. And don't forget, you have the other side, which is Morocco. And that's all Africa. It's a whole different world there.
Well, I'm going to keep looking into this. There's something... There definitely is action going on there, that's for sure.
Action is the ships at sea. Ships at sea, my friend. And it is the same with I'm convinced that the Suez Canal, that's the only reason we haven't withdrawn from Egypt. Is just to keep that. We can't say, oh well, never mind Egypt, screw you, and then just have the Suez Canal fall into whoever's hands. The Muslim Brotherhood? You want them running the Suez Canal?
Nobody wants them. Nobody wants anyone besides our side running the Suez Canal.
And did you see that Mokhtar Belmokhtar is back?
I thought he's dead.
No, he's back.
No.
He's back.
He was dead. He's killed. He's dead.
No, he's back.
Mokhtar, the smoking man?
The Marlboro man. He's back. He wasn't dead. Here it is.
Oh, they had the... Wait, somebody looked at the memo and says, hey, wait a minute, we're not supposed to kill this guy yet.
Here, the one-eyed terror leader Mokhtar Belmokhtar, considered by many to be the most dangerous man in the Sahara, is now officially joining forces with a Mali-based jihadist group and vowing to support Islamists in Egypt, according to a statement posted on Thursday. This is SITE, S-I-T-E. These are the guys who translate the Al-Qaeda videos.
Okay.
Those guys.
The
announcement of the alliance known as the Morabitones formalizes an emerging union between Belmokhtar's followers and the group known as Mujao, or Movement for Oneness and Jihad in West Africa. Their comments were carried by the Nouakchott Information Agency, the NIA, a Mauritian site previously used by Belmokhtar to convey messages. So he's back. And the two groups said they have decided to, quote, confront the Zionist campaign against Islam and the Muslims by uniting jihadists from the Nile to the Atlantic, spanning all of northern Africa. This is good stuff for a fairy tale.
A total fairy tale, but who was the guy that they killed, they said was Mokhtar?
There was a guy...
They reported that on this show.
Yeah,
it was about, a year ago?
But he's been killed a couple times, I think, on this show.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. So that's Egypt. That's Egypt. And then, of course, we have good news.
All aboard, train's good, plane's bad. Woo-hoo!
Now, although it's not really a big airline, I'm going to give it to you as a Red Book entry. Samoa Air has started charging its passengers by the pound, as you predicted.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Red Book by John C. Dvorak. The airline generally flies smaller aircraft, so there's that. But passengers and their luggage will now be weighed together to determine how much they're going to be paying.
Now, what airline is this?
Samoa Air.
Oh, for God's sake. Have you ever seen a Samoan?
Yeah, yeah. That's now you mention it. No wonder.
Yeah, they had to do that.
But it was a Red Book prediction, and this is just the start, and now it'll be used as a model moving forward.
Well, at least there's a precedent.
Yeah,
although the precedent is pretty dubious. Samoa,
I like
those guys are huge.
There you go. Oh, man.
All right. Well, I got something here.
Yeah, roll it, brother.
Let's see what. There's this. So I got to watch Al Jazeera America.
Oh yes, I saw. Now they're not on my cable system.
Oh, a lot of people rejected it, but they're on the Dish Network.
Okay.
This is a promotion for the Dish Network, this show. I'm going to send them a copy of the show saying, hey.
Did you see the opening of the
I didn't see the very, very opening, but I watched the main shows. And one of them is supposed to have Soledad O'Brien, and she got bumped.
Oh, really?
They had some Chinese girl.
I have a clip of they did something really good because they had kind of this bombastic opening of "We're great, we have a million."
Oh no, I saw
journalists."
that stuff.
Did you see
they kept showing that throughout the day?
The one where they had Hillary and McCain in there?
No, I missed that.
Let me play this for you.
With a rich mix of content from home and around the world, Al Jazeera America's journalistic integrity knows no borders, delivering broadcast excellence across news, documentary, and current affairs.
She agreed to give his entire medical files to Al Jazeera for this exclusive investigation.
Those are his clothes that the paramedics cut off him.
It is really effective. And in fact, viewership of Al Jazeera is going up in the United States because it's real news.
We will connect the world to America and Americans to the world.
What Al Jazeera has done is achieve something that all of us, I think, want to achieve, and that is to make a contribution.
They have pulled those two out of context and made it sound like they're promoting Al Jazeera, which I think is...
Which is illegal, by the way.
Yeah, but doesn't matter. Applause. Good job.
Yeah, very good.
Good job.
By the way, we had that clip of Hillary saying that and found it rather baffling. But
but she was
3 years ago.
Yeah, but she was not saying it to promote Al Jazeera. She was saying, saying we need to get better propaganda than them is what she was saying.
Pretty much.
At the time.
But anyway, so I'm watching this. I do have a short clip because they did do one thing they tried to go after. Play the Haiti clip and just as the intro and listen to the sound. It's not a very good sound.
Well, thousands were killed and tens of thousands made sick by the cholera epidemic that swept through Haiti 2 years ago. The scientific evidence seems pretty conclusive. The strain appears to have come from a United Nations peacekeeping base, but the UN has refused to even consider compensating the victims.
Wait a minute. So these guys are taking our show notes and then, from 2 years ago and turning it into programming?
Well, there's that. But they do a little better because they have this one guy who actually becomes a stalker with Ban Ki-moon. so he tracks him down because he goes to Haiti. There's money here in this Al Jazeera operation compared to what we get.
Tons of money.
And so the guy flies to Haiti and he flies here and he flies there and then he reports the whole thing from San Francisco where he's at a bar. Anyway, he goes to New York. Because he shows all these sad stories of people with cholera, and they also mention in this piece, it's a very long piece, but it's very, very interesting, that Haiti's never had cholera in its history, and so they track it down to these UN guys. So the UN refuses to take responsibility, so he goes to New York and tracks down Ban Ki-moon, tracks him down, he gets to him with an ambush.
We weren't able to do that. That's kind of cool.
We can't afford it.
Right.
We do it.
Yeah, of course.
So he gets him, and Ban Ki-moon goes, I don't know, I think it's fine. He says, if you got any more questions, talk to the attorneys of the UN.
Oh.
So then he gets on the phone, he tries to call them, and they all stonewall him. They won't talk to him. So he goes and tracks down Ban Ki-moon again, finds him a second time, corners him, and he's got two bodyguards with him. And the one bodyguard, he says, well, you said to call these guys, they won't take my call. And the big bodyguard holds him back. He says, hey, we've talked enough to you. And they strong arms the guy. This was very revealing. It was very good. But here's the problem with the show. It's, for one thing, of course, it's, they just started, but you'd think they drop a bunch of feeds. They go to a feed that's dead. And the sound is very... It's
amateur. There's no compression. It sounds really
There's no compression.
weak.
It doesn't sound like a network show at all. It sounds like and as soon as I picked up on the sound, I said, this sounds like local. And then I started looking at the presentation. It looks KGO Channel 7 in San Francisco
is better.
Yeah. It's got a better presentation. It's got a better sound. It's got better lighting than this. This has got a really cheap sound. They don't have a good sound.
I really want to watch this. I'm upset. You can't get it streaming, and Time Warner doesn't carry it. Now, tell me this, because
by the way, By the way, AT&T said it refuses to carry it, meaning that they're pulling an extortion stunt if they all of a sudden start carrying
it. Of course,
Why is the government allowing this extortion?
Well, hold on a second. This is, if you want to be carried, then you have to pay. This is how it works. And the only reason Current TV was on cable systems at all is because they bought an outfit that had certified slots they'd already prepaid. And I'm pretty convinced that this is why Gore decided to sell. First of all, he had a buyer for you got a buyer for anything piece of crap like that. You got to go, sell now. Yes. Particularly the reported $100 million, which I don't believe.
I don't either.
And so that, these contracts are running out. And it's expensive. You got to pay at least $1 per subscriber. So it's very, very expensive to keep something on the air like this with no real revenues. And now it's just a propaganda machine. And these guys, AT&T Uverse, by the way, it's just they have 5 million subscribers. Big whoop. And they have every right to say, oh, yeah, you want to be on our system? Yeah, pay us like everybody else. And that is the model, which is now also falling apart. My question for you, is Young Turk still on? Did they carry over any of that programming?
No, they carried over nothing. It's all new.
So those guys are out of business.
Yeah. Young Turk made his move. Chunk made his move to online at least 6 months ago. He had moved a show.
Forget it. Forget it. It's not going to work because it's just not going to work.
The reason it's not going to work, in my opinion, is because they still have TV overheads, even though it's cable.
Yes.
It's not true network TV overheads.
It's worse than that. No, it's worse, and I'll tell you why. So I've seen it because I went looking for them. I didn't see anything on the AJA, but I did see their Young Turk site, and they're saying, get a subscription for $10. So they're not giving anything away. You can get a subscription, and then you can for $10 a month. Now, this maybe would work for Chunk himself, who I'm sure has started to live a lifestyle of a guy on TV. Even cable TV, you're doing $180,000, maybe $200,000 a year. You're living in Jersey, wherever he lives. You're driving in. I know this life. But then all of a sudden you got to go to the online poverty model, and it gets a little tougher. And the thing is, he can't pay for the crew and these other people. They all want to eat too. He's got these chickies on and his round table, and they're going to walk away.
No, you're preaching to the choir on this one.
Yeah, it won't work.
The model for making money on the internet in a broadcast like scenario, like what we're doing, requires absolute minimalism.
Yes. I'm not even wearing clothes.
We're not going to New York to track down Bunky Moon.
No.
We don't have a huge staff of people. We don't have a bunch of hot chicks that are batting their eyes. We got none of that.
We
don't have studios. We're doing this is the way it has to be done.
The studio has when the cicadas crank in, you hear them on the air here.
Yeah, when the train goes by, you hear the train go.
That's right. We don't have studios. I forgot about that.
And so right. And in fact, every once in a while, because we do a very professional production as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, we try.
And every once in a while, people say, well, gee, you go to work for your operation. I said, we don't.
Operation?
Yeah, right. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. We don't. If we had one employee that was more than just a part-timer that does the spreadsheet and keeps care and sends the rings out, we'd be out of business.
No, let me put it this way. If we didn't have our model, which is not a subscription model, we decided early on, take the show, please enjoy, and if it gives you value, then consider giving us some value back. If we didn't have guys like Mr. Oil and Gitmo Slave, and Void Zero, we couldn't afford the back office. Just the bandwidth alone would put us out of business.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't be able to do it.
We can't afford to do this show.
Now that's let me write that one down. See,
we can't afford to do this show. Say it again.
Yeah, that's very good.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab. Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
And to prove the point, here's a very short donation segment.
We did get some people. We did make in the newsletter. Some newsletters obviously did get through, and we do have a 66.66 donation to celebrate our 6th anniversary coming up at the end of October. And we did get, I think, 17 people who jumped on.
So 17 people responded to our mailing list of tens of thousands, John?
The mailing list is 9,500.
We don't even have one tens of thousands.
No.
That's it? Really? Holy crap.
Well, that's because they didn't get the mailing. I mean, hello.
No, I know, but I thought we even had a bigger... So people aren't even... So of our audience, our vast worldwide audience, we don't even have 10,000 people subscribed to the mailing list?
No, we have 9,500.
It's in the show notes, people. It tells you where to sign up for it, and when you sign up for it, make sure you look in the promotions tab.
Yeah, if it's even there. But we do have some people to thank. Sir Chasen Rozdilsky. Rozdilsky.
Sir Chasen.
Sir Chasen, we'll call him. $133.33. He's in Saskatoon, the Paris of Canada in Saskatchewan. And he says $133 for 133 boners that didn't donate for this show.
Thank you.
And .33 because it's the magic number.
Thank you so much.
William Smith also here with $111.11. Then we drop down to Jessica Risterer in Hillsboro, Oregon, a nice wine growing area, $76. Brandon M., where the money is, in $75 Alberta, Canada. Been listening for half a year. Figures it's time to donate. Is listening to No Agenda Show makes me feel like I actually have friends.
Well,
you got to give him some karma so he can no longer be a sad virgin.
Oh, whoa, okay.
You've got karma.
So, I got a note from someone the other day who said that he had finally, and I don't know why he sent me the note, but he's like, I finally am no longer a virgin. Thanks, No Agenda. I'm like,
yikes. Well, maybe he took our advice.
I don't know.
Hookers.
Yeah, there you go. No, I don't think so. I think he was really emotionally happy about it too.
Oh, well, that's good. Well, yeah, hookers don't do that to you.
69, dudes.
Thomas Wiehe. What do you think? Wiehe. W-I-E-H-E.
I would say Via.
Could be 69, 69. He's in Norway. Tom Abel or Abel in Woodley, Berkshire, UK, 6969, and Edward Hines in Jacksonville, Florida. And that's it for our 69.
Whoa.
Yeah, but it wasn't two, it was three. We had two, so it's actually gone up one. Philip Smith in Oslo.
And these are the 66-66ers?
No, these are all the 66-66ers.
For our 6th anniversary. By the way, we'll accept 666-66. We'll accept 6,666. We'll accept 60,606,000.
Right. We'll also accept $6.66, which is
yes, we will. Absolutely.
Zaka Morrison Ruiz in McKinney, Texas. Brad Doherty, who's always coming in, thank you, from Brooklyn, New York. Elizabeth Borozen in Tucson, Arizona. And she says, "Heil, boys."
Heil, Elizabeth.
Sir Robert Clayson in London. Dear No Agenda team, some time ago I introduced my wife to No Agenda, which she now faithfully listens to and even manages to download before I do. This is terribly annoying by itself. But even more annoying is that she, one of your black listeners nowadays, that's in parents, she's not nowadays black, she's always been black. Whenever I pose a different opinion than hers, can on certain occasions shout out, "Shut up, slave," at me.
Wait a minute. So here's the black chick saying that to the white dude?
Yeah.
My, oh my, oh my.
She needs a birthday call when you got her on
the
list.
She does. She needs some karma is what she needs. I'm going to give her that right now. Beautiful.
You've got karma.
Can you imagine that? Shut up, slave. Yes, honey.
John Cox in Adkins, Texas. Sir Dwayne Melanson is always coming in Tigard, Oregon. Congratulations on your upcoming 7th season. He'll give us some more money when that comes. He's the Duke of Mystery. I'm sorry. Robert Miller, 6666 from Seattle, Washington. Anonymous in Holly Springs, North Carolina. Eric Nagel in Utrecht.
Erik Nagel.
Erik Nagel.
Bunschoten-Spakenburg.
Bunschoten-Spakenburg.
Very good.
Sir Robert Gold in Toronto, Canada. Sir Mark Coulin in another
Sir Mark
Fednes. What is this?
Weidenes. Sir Mark Coulin.
Thanks for all the hours of real entertainment and news. I would go nuts without you guys. Sir Mark from Oosterlake. Oosterlake. So
he says, I have lost my night ring. Is it possible to receive, order, or replacement? I think we have a lost night ring service. If you go to noagendanation.com/rings and
put a note in there.
Put a note in there. Yeah, fill out a note for Eric, and he'll
lose your ring.
Yeah,
Zachary
don't
Gall,
lose the ring. No.
Corona, California. He's been a boner, not a donor. Now he's a donor. Chris Abraham in Arlington, Virginia, and finally, last but not least,
hello, Arlington.
Yeah, Arlington. Hey, Arlington. We're losing out here.
They don't even have to download the podcast to listen to us.
Yes, and we wish they would download us some money. And finally, Baron Robert Goshko in Sherwood Park, Alberta, says, happy anniversary, Abe and Jeb. And onward, we get Samantha Mosher, $60 from Gatesbrook, Nova Scotia. She was to thank us both, and Michael Randall, who hit me in the mouth a few months ago. This is for his knighthood. This is going to be hard to. This is the kind of thing that drives Eric nuts. You know, money coming in from different sources for somebody. Wilfred Kessler in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. He needs some moving karma. We'll give that at the end with all the karma. And Todd LG, 5390. Mac Harbor LLC in Sheboygan, Michigan. Okay. You have to read that and see if it's something we're supposed to read or not read.
Wait a minute,
Eric V in Dublin, California, $50. These are all 50. Kyle Bauer, Parts Unknown, Dad and Greb in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. And finally, last but not least, Matthew Moss in Long Beach. And I actually have a note from him, if I can find it amongst the mess here. Matthew. Yeah, this is actually a note worth reading. John and Adam, it's been a few years since my last donation. Please forgive my sins. Here's a few bucks from an old knight.
15 Hail Marys and you'll be good, my son.
Yes, 15 Hail Marys. Did you know that phone number 867-5309 is starting to show up as phone number does not exist in the rewards cards programs at many stores, so you can't use it anymore.
This is old. We know. Oh, you can't use that anymore?
You can't use it anymore. That's the point. Oh. So I signed Matthew Moss, and then he has this thing. It says, fuck PayPal. So he did send it by mail. We have another note I want to read, which is an anonymous note, came in. And this is just worth reading because it's interesting. Last month, I attended the Tennessee regional debut of Pandora's Premise in Knoxville, Tennessee. And he sent a little flyer, which he wants me to send to you. The film was followed by a live discussion panel of nuclear power experts that commented on the film and took questions from the audience. The panel part, and this is very
I have this. I have this video. It was really outstanding, actually.
Yeah, well, listen to this. The panel participants included scientists from nearby Oak Ridge, University of Tennessee, and representatives of TVA and U.S. Enrichment Corporation. I have enclosed the flyer. Shows everyone included. The panel was uninteresting until the last question when a woman asked how the nuclear industry can do a better job of informing the public of the real benefits and risks of nuke power. The head of nuclear R&D at ORNL immediately responded, quote, I do not have as strong of a perception that there is an anti-public negative thing about nuclear. I'm glad I stuck around for that gem.
Yeah.
I believe is probably true. These guys are clueless.
Yeah, I actually have a couple of pieces from this guy, Arjun Makhijani. He's the guy that started the, where 30 times the cesium or the strontium in the water were all going to die from Fukushima.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yes. So I found our Knight, Sir Atomic Rod, had done an interview with him several months ago when this guy came out with his latest book, which is how these guys work. And right after we don't have to. I mean, we only have one birthday. Do you really want me to play the music and everything for?
Yeah, let's do the music of the birthday. We have no night. We have one birthday.
No, we have no money. We have
no money. Thank you, Google, again.
If they're not blocking us as malware and spam, they're screwing us up.
We're not the only ones. They're screwing everybody, just as Yahoo's doing. It's not targeted, I can assure you. There's too much money to be made by screwing everyone.
Right. Okay, let me do it real quick then. We might as well.
It's your birthday.
And it's Robert Clayson, Sir Robert, I should say, and he congratulates his wife, who celebrated her birthday on the 11th of August. He didn't give us a name, but we know she tells him to shut up, slave. So happy birthday from your buddies here in the best podcast in the universe.
It's your birthday, yeah.
And I do want to remind everybody that we need your support for the Sunday show. Sundays are already lower than the Thursday shows, and this is a pretty poor showing. So
Dvorak.org/NA.
Please remind your friends as well who may be listening who just didn't get the email, and sign up for the email newsletter, and you can find
we can get a bigger list. That way we'll have at least
more
somebody.
More chance.
There's a better. Yeah, it's like going to Vegas.
Yeah. So that's actually there were two things. I think because the president came out with his big energy plan was it now 2 months ago, maybe 2.5 months ago, and it included obviously gas and solar and wind, and there was a provision for nuclear, and there was actually quite a few pages, and I think that now has to be completely wiped off the map, which is why you're seeing all of a sudden all of these really scary things about Fukushima. There was something else that happened, which was clearly a planted anti-nuclear strategy, and I would say I'm a fan of nuclear, the new breeder technology. There is no waste. I mean, it makes no sense. The reason why it's not going to happen is because it makes no financial sense, because no one can rape and pillage Africa to go and get the stuff that we need. So this paper comes out from UT right here in the backyard. And this was a working paper. I'm reading from the paper itself. The paper is called Nuclear Proliferation Prevention Project, the NPPP, working paper number 1, protecting U.S. nuclear facilities from terrorist attack, reassessing the current design basis threat approach. And this is done by primarily Lara Kirkman, a graduate research assistant at the NPPP, supplemented with editing and contributions by Professor Alan J. Cooperman, coordinator of the NPPP. It was prepared as part of a larger interdisciplinary study at the University of Texas at Austin for the Office of the Secretary of Defense. So it's a kind of like a research paper. And in this paper, the introduction, and then we go on to threats and consequences, and so it lists the threats of nuclear, and number 1, theft of nuclear weapons. And there's a whole thing about 5,000 active, inactive nuclear warheads. And then we scroll down, we've got theft of SNM, nuclear material suitable for use in weapons. And then we scroll down, now we're at page 6 almost. And let's see, we have sabotage of reactors. And this is an example of the news report based upon this paper by a graduate student at UT.
Spread across the country, 100 working nuclear reactors. 116 million Americans live within 50 miles of one, 26 big cities from Boston to New York, Chicago to Omaha, New Orleans to San Diego. Now, researchers say those reactors remain vulnerable to attack from a hijacked jetliner, a boat sitting off the coast, or an organized ground attack.
Now so this is all from this research paper, is this news report.
Terrorists could create a meltdown in a reactor in a matter of minutes, but the SWAT teams would arrive after about an hour and a half. And that's just not good enough.
This is fantastic.
Commissioned by the Pentagon, the University of Texas report suggests more needs to be done to guard against a 9/11 scale attack. But the former director of the National Counterterrorism Center says it would be far more difficult today to hijack a plane and nuclear reactors.
Now, let me just get this straight. So the Pentagon commissioned a report, so they paid for it. They commissioned a report at the UT. The UT professor took the money, had his graduate students write this report. It's a crazy little PDF. It even has a little mushroom cloud at the top there with a I'm not kidding you. It has a little mushroom. It's in the show notes. You can see it. And from that, then they turn around and turn it into a news report that we're all going to die unless we make sure the Pentagon protects us from terrorism. That's the system. And that is going to be the new anti-nuclear talking point, as is witnessed by, and I'm trying to find this guy. I had him, this Arjun, what's his face? And he is the one that started this whole, oh crap, how come I don't have, well, he's been on a couple of network shows talking about this, the strontium in the water there at Fukushima is 30 times, the recommended dosage, and we already kind of debunked that on the previous show, that is such a fraction of what you get in radiation in general. Now, I don't know much about nuclear, but there is so little contrarian messaging and information getting out there. There's just all these pico-curies and micro-Soviets and all this crap, and it sounds really, really scary. But when I get down to it, these guys who are pretending to be, or maybe are nuclear experts, they are anti-nuclear, all of them, and they're the ones that get on TV, and guess who's sponsoring all this stuff? So here's an alternative show.
By the way, just as a crackpotty kind of thing, I would suggest that maybe one of our anonymous producers who went to this presentation of Pandora's Promise with a bunch of these experts, and one of them says, there's no anti-nuke anything going on. I don't know what you're talking about. It's possible that even this is being presented in an anti-nuke fashion.
Totally. Yes. When I saw Pandora's Promise, the first thing I said was someone got in there and they fucked it all up. And they made it really questionable. It was so poor. We talked about that. We had a whole.
Yeah, I remember when you saw it. This is a while back.
So here's this Arjun guy, and he actually has a foundation of which the foundation of course, it's a 501(c)(3) corp, so we have no idea where the money's come from. But he raises about $600,000 a year. He pays himself $300,000. He pays his wife $75,000, and that's his foundation. So it's a nonprofit, and this is the kind of stuff he talks about. So here he is with Atomic Rod. Now, I don't think he knew that he just thought he was doing some podcast with some atomic guy, which is kind of funny. But Rod, of course, he ran nuclear submarines.
Did Atomic Rod post this? And then
yes, yeah. This is episode 1.
So this has been posted. So we're not listening to a private conversation.
No.
This is the podcast. The guy's going to give us the litany.
Yeah, no, this is a podcast. But the guy, I don't think he understood where Rod was coming from. Rod, was on nuclear subs for 20 years, and he works at a big nuclear, a nuclear company. Was trying to produce, as far as I'm concerned, backyard nukes, although that's not what he's doing, but that's what I want him to do.
Yeah, I wish he would. And I think it'd be great to have a place up in the mountains with a well and then a nuke in the backyard.
Wouldn't it be great?
You'd have it made.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah, you don't even have to do anything. You don't have to be hooked to anything. You're completely off the grid.
I'm spending $600 a month here in Austin on electricity.
Yeah, did you get raw? What does a backyard nuke sell for? I think you can get one for like $50,000 or something.
Well, the problem is the zoning, John.
Who's going to know?
Well, if you don't tell anybody. Well, anyway, let's listen to this guy. So here's this guy who was called in to be an expert on all the shows and is spouting off this, these numbers which sound scary when you say 30 times the recommended dosage for your drinking water, but it's really a 0.1% of what you get on an annual basis anyway. And here he is just saying that he just hates nuclear.
I work every day for nuclear safety because I know, even though I don't like nuclear power particularly, or at all.
Or at all. He doesn't like it at all. And he's the expert in nuclear. So he's always presented as...
He doesn't like it at all. How is he the expert?
Because he writes books about it.
It's like a guy, it's a wine taster. I hate wine.
But now...
Here's a Merlot blend. You can maybe try that.
I hate Merlots. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes no sense.
So, but I'll play a little bit more of this. But I figured out what these guys are really pushing for. It's quite interesting.
We do have it, and even if we stopped all the reactors, we'd still have spent fuel pool safety problems for decades to come. So we need we actually need to make sure we won't have an accident. We need safety systems here that are very rigorous, and we need a real regulatory system that's actually attending to all of these things.
So what would happen to a spent fuel pool that has, say, fuel that's been out of the reactor for...
Now here's Rod, who knows everything about nuclear safety. He's setting the guy up. It's pretty funny. He's like, okay, so this horrible, because this is what you hear about, the spent fueled rods, and they're going to, if a terrorist blows it up, everything will melt down, it'll be horrible. So here's a guy who actually knows what can happen versus a fear monger who writes books and takes money in a nonprofit way to scare people into using gas, I guess.
18 months, and the water suddenly disappeared from the spent fuel pool.
It would depend. If you read the Brookhaven report, you'll see that there's a whole range of outcomes with accidents, damages in the event of a fire, ranging from under $1 billion to, as I said,
well, how would the fire start?
$1 billion.
This is important. Rod's saying the key point here. Okay, how would the fire start? So, okay, the nuclear rods might be a problem, but you need to have a fire. How would the fire start?
How would the fire start?
How the fire starts when the water is drained and there's some very hot fuel in it. Now, if all the fuel is very cool and the fuel is very separated, which is what we've been advocating, then you probably won't have a fire and you won't have severe consequences. But if we have spent fuel pools like Vermont Yankee, which has 40 years worth of spent fuel jammed into one spent fuel pool, more spent fuel than all the 4 Fukushima-stricken reactors put together, and you're putting hot and spent fuel in it when you withdraw it. If you have an accident close to that time or a terrorist attack, you could have a pretty devastating fire.
So here's the messaging. So we have these new reactors with 4 times the amount of Fukushima, just to give you a frame of mind. And if we have a terrorist attack, why, yes, then we can have a problem. Unlike a terrorist attack on, avgas fuel depots at airports, tankers. This is bullshit.
Oil refineries.
Oh, thank you. No one ever talks about that, but the new narrative is going to be...
By the way, I've always believed that oil refineries are the least protected of all these things, and you get one of those things blowing up, you got a mess on your hands. Nothing happens. There is no the amount of terrorism that's actually in this continent is next to nothing.
Yeah.
Except for the guys that are the idiots that are set up by the FBI.
But the problem that we're seeing now is you've got the movement against nuclear is taking. I mean, now we have and the alternative media is duped. It's 100% being duped into this, and we are alternative thinking and conspiratorial by nature. I'll admit that right off the bat. Because of that, this is being played into to say, they're keeping secrets about Fukushima. There's a cloud coming. The cloud of radiation is going to kill you. We're all going to die. There's
a cycle on that too.
What do you mean a cycle?
Fukushima is going to blow any minute. Every so often, this crops back into the conversation.
And it's back right now, and that's because the money's being spent. Money's being made available for the president's plan of action. And by the way, that fracking thing, not working out so well. Have you been looking at the financials, John?
No, actually, I haven't.
So fracking was supposed to be, turn us into the new OPEC. But this stuff is not working. It's the wells, it's like, it's not really, BP and Shell, Shell, they're closing down some stuff, and, the big fracking companies are losing money. How can you have a natural fossil fuel company and lose money? That makes no sense.
That's like owning a casino and losing money.
How can you lose money on that? This makes no sense. But here's what these guys like this Arun guy. Here's what they really want.
I didn't actually talk a whole lot about demand management and carbon-free, nuclear-free. I feel I should.
Listen to what he's... Demand management. This is very interesting. Demand management.
I've talked more about it, but since I certainly have. Demand management can mean a lot of different things. So it can mean like what I do with my contract with my electric utility. I allow them at most a dozen times a year to turn off my air conditioner for a couple of hours a day on the hottest days.
What? Demand management, he allows his electricity provider to turn off his air conditioning for a couple of hours on the hottest days. What?
Huh.
Is that the future for us? This is the smart grid, by the way. The electric companies will be able to, on the hottest day, when you want it the most, they're going to turn it off?
So that's actually curtailment of service.
Curtailment of services. These are good words. Write them down. Demand management, curtailment of services. Shut up, slave.
However, there are lots of ways of demand management in an intelligent grid, and that's why I said today we can do it. 30 years ago, I don't think it would have been possible. Today, you can build a refrigerator that can talk to the utility. Do you care when the defrost cycle in your freezer is operating?
Yes.
You don't. You don't know when it happens. I don't know when it happens, and I don't care when it happens. If I set a dishwasher to operate now, unless I'm having a party and want to override...
I love
you need an override switch on your dishwasher.
Because I'm having a party. This takes me back to the promise, where is my internet fridge that is going to automatically order the milk for me?
Yeah,
this is how your demand
machine is going to call the repairman.
Yeah, this is bullshit.
The dishwasher from operating when there's plenty of wind. I don't care when the dishwasher operates.
Yeah, I do.
I do.
I do. Of course I care when it operates. I want it to operate when I'm asleep, so when I wake up in the morning, it's done.
Or the clothes washing machine operates.
I care about that, too. My wife, she loves to wash. You can't be turning it off and say, no washing for you, Miss Mickey. She loves washing. It's really true.
So you can have an intelligent grid without any curtailment of service at reasonable cost. Do we have it today? No. Today, the total amount of communication between consumers and producers, as represented by our on-off switches.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to have all these on-off switches. So so the future we could have, what I believe is the future we need, is very affordable. Once you have it, I think once it's in place, I think nuclear is very affordable because, you get like this little football size of stuff and it just runs. And you don't even have to have huge grids. You could have one nuke in the backyard and power a whole neighborhood. And then everyone could turn on their washing machine whenever they wanted, and it wouldn't be burning stuff, fossil fuel, dirty crap in the air. Instead of that, we're going to have more crap. We're going to have gas. We're going to still have coal, which, by the way, kills 6,000 people a year, just miners trying to get the coal. And we're going to be turned into slaves, to pay for it. I'm already paying $600 a month here in Austin for two people for electricity, and it's going to be demand management and curtailment of services.
Yeah, when you need the services.
So, yeah, so this is slavery. And the alternative media, you're right, is on this cycle, and they're being sucked into it with this stupid, we're not being told, they're keeping things. It's a ruse, it's a farce.
All right, we got to find out the PR agencies behind this. This is good stuff.
Well, but it's the big companies, man. These guys are huge. Well, the Arun guy, his Form 990 lists nothing, but he's just one of these. You get a guy who's Indian, and he writes a book. Boom, he's your guy. We need some kids. Look for the kids now. Anti-nuke kids.
Yeah.
All about gas. Yeah, you watch. But these are the biggest. I think these are so huge, John. And then I found this great. This is really funny. So now we have... you were the one who taught us about the global cooling in the 1970s, right?
Right.
Because I was around in the 70s, but
I witnessed it.
Yeah, I was like playing with G.I. Joe and the Barbies.
We're all going to die.
Okay, so here's what's on NBC.
Sounding the alarm, a leaked report about the danger happening all around us tonight.
The key finding in this leaked draft report is that it's, quote, extremely likely, as in greater than 95%, that human activity is the main cause of the planet's temperature rise in the last 60 years. At At the top of the world in Arctic Greenland, scientists like Dr. Jason Box study the icy landscape. He says all this might be lost to climate change, mostly caused by humans burning fossil fuels.
There's no debate.
No debate.
It's really quite simple.
No debate.
We've overloaded the atmosphere with heat-trapping gas, and the rest are just details.
Inuit leader Aquila Klinge says melting ice means his people struggle to reach traditional hunting grounds. Some have even fallen through the thinning ice and died.
That was
no
my
one's ever fallen through ice before.
That was my favorite.
That's never happened.
That was my favorite. The ice is getting thinner. He fell through and died.
You're saying that a way of life is so threatened it could die. His message essentially is that we in the industrialized world are using more than our fair share.
More than our fair share.
Our children and our grandchildren will pay the price, Lester.
All right.
Very sobering.
Ann Curry, very sobering. Very sobering, Ann.
I think we should just go all nuke.
So, first of all, Ann Curry, I denounce you from using my last name. You are no longer, you can call yourself whatever you want, but not Curry. You were denounced. So ever since we kind of started this topic, and I have to say since the invention of BitMessage, where people feel very comfortable at sending me messages, you can find my BitMessage address on my blog.curry.com. I got this, and this is from March this year, Dr. Don Easterbrook. Have you ever heard of this guy?
Sounds familiar.
Dr. Don Easterbrook is an actual professor, and he testified in front of the, let me just get this, I want to say it properly, the Washington Senate, the Committee on the CMTE, so what is that? That's Committee on Energy, Environment, whatever.
Yeah.
And this guy, and you have to watch this video. It's in the show notes, of course. It's under ClimateGate/Agenda 21. And I have 3 little clips from him, which is it's just fantastic what he's putting in here. So here he is.
What's this guy's name again?
Easterbrook, Dr. Don Easterbrook.
Dr. Don Rose.
So his entire thing is the climate data has been manipulated by NASA and NOAA. And what they do is, he says that it was hotter in 1930, and there were more heat records broken. In fact, he is a proponent of global cooling, and he shows.
Oh yeah. I think he's one of the guys that goes back to the 70s.
Well,
he's born in 1935. He's been around
in the
70s.
So here he is explaining how there were more records in the 30s than now, and then we're going to get into Senator Ranker, who was really pissed off about this guy testifying at his committee.
Warmer, and so they come up with a headline saying, "Oh, it's warmer now than it was then." This is the original data before they manipulated it.
What? They manipulated the data?
You'll see that if we take the top 10. Number 2 was 1934, 3 was 1939, 4 was 1931, 5 was 1930, 6 was 1933, 7 was 1938, and guess what? They're all in 1930s. 1930s was
they called the Dust Bowl because of this.
That's right.
The hottest decade of the century. Not the present, not the last decade, but the hottest of the century. I'll show you. Over here, you look at all these 2000. These are all second tier. 10, 11.
So he's showing the top 20 years essentially, and the top 10 are all in the 30s, and this past year, 2 years, is all in the 10 through 20s.
Through 20. This is what the present temperature has been doing, and it's nowhere close to the other. And if you plot that data, this is what it looks like. This is a number of temperature records that were broken in any given year. These are years down here. So here we are right here. And now we're breaking somewhere around 2,000 records, temperature records for warmth. And you think, wow, 2,000, that's a lot. But look at what it was doing in 1936 and 1934, 10,000. We are setting record highs at a rate of about only a fourth of those that occurred in the 1930s.
Now, when you see this data laid out, it becomes apparent what they're doing, because you can have the hottest August 22nd at 4 p.m. in history, But that doesn't mean that August 23rd will be the record, because that record probably lies back in the 30s. So it's so manipulative that he now explains this, how this data has been manipulated. And Senator Ranker, who is a Democrat, is so on board with this climate stuff, he can't believe what he's hearing, and he's getting pissed off.
Lies! Everybody's in agreement.
Listen.
There's some data. Let me answer it for you.
What you just put out in your slide goes contrary to the data that I have before me. So I'm just curious if what you're basing your metadata on, where your samples are taken from, and then also what's your opinion of the data that I have before me, which seems contrary to what you're putting forward.
I don't doubt that it's contrary. And what I just said a moment ago was that I'm showing you the original data. And what you're looking at is the data that has been tampered with by NOAA and by NASA. And I could show you curves of what that data looked like in 1936, what it looked like in 1980, what it looked like in 1990 and 2000. And the temperatures, the high temperatures in the 1930s, get cooler every year. They put out a new issue, and the temperatures that are in the 2000 plus get warmer because they have frankly tampered with the data. That's the difference between what you're looking at and what I'm looking at. Mine is the original data.
One quick follow-up, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So the National Science Foundation, NASA, and NOAA have manipulated the data.
Yes, that's true. I can show you the data.
There's now steam coming out of the guy's head.
That they have manipulated. I'm not saying that they have done something which is scurrilous and evil. What I'm saying simply is something that everybody will agree on, and that is that they have what they call adjusted the data.
Adjusted.
And if you look at how they have adjusted it, the 1930s always get lower because of the adjustments they made from the original data, and the 2000 plus always get warmer.
So this, of course, completely blows out the thing. What has the president said time and time again, John?
That everybody agrees climate change is a problem.
The hottest 12 years on record.
12, yeah. Everybody says that.
I can tell you
this Ranker, by the way, of Orcas Island is a total douchebag, but I can see him being all in on this.
So let's hear him spit this back on the. And of course, there's only one thing you can throw at a guy like this.
Sure, they're like little punctuation marks here and there. They don't persist. They're not a factor. They give you a 1 year, 2 year spike, and then they're gone.
Okay, so in the follow-up, and this gets back to the data I have before me, which seems, again, contrary, but so you're talking about a trend, particularly over the last decade, maybe 15 years of cooling, yet what I have before me is that 2000 to 2012 was the warmest 12-year period in instrumental record. In other words, since we've been recording heat of the planet and what we're in, the last 12 years were the hottest on record. And that's peer-reviewed data that I have before me. And so my question to you is that because what I'm looking at has been manipulated by NASA and NOAA and the National Science Foundation, or what's the difference here? Because we obviously have conflicting information before us.
Right. I don't know what your data is or where it came from, so I can't answer that specifically why it's different. What I can tell you is that the data that I'm showing you is original data, and as I've just shown you, the 1930s were the warmer decade than the past decade. If you use original data, that's what I'm telling you.
Thank you.
And if you have something that's different than that, my guess would be, although without knowing what your data is, I can't say for sure, is probably that this is manipulated data by NOAA, NASA, or the subunit of NASA that deals with climate. And what they do is they make what they call adjustments to their data, the net effect of which is to make the earlier warm periods, like the 1930s, cooler, and raise the temperature of the last decade artificially, not from the original data. Mine is original data.
Is this a conspiracy?
No, there it is.
I'm not into conspiracies, so I have no comment on that. I'm simply.
And this guy, so I don't have enough time to play all the great stuff he says CO2 can never be responsible for global warming. He explains that with really simple charts. He said it's such an infinitesimal small amount of our atmosphere. It can't be trapping anything. It's all bullcrap. And it was nice knowing Dr. Don Easterbrook, because he will be dead soon. That's for sure. Making way too much sense.
That guy.
It's making way too much sense. He's very entertaining. Please go to the show notes, 541.nashownotes.com under ClimateGate / Agenda 21. It's just funny. It's lovely. I really, really enjoy And this guy, he's like, I got no dog in this hunt. I don't give a crap. I have no political affiliations. I just have the data. That's all I've got.
Yeah, I just got the facts, and you guys can say whatever you want.
But he really says it's getting colder, and he has a chart that he says the winters are getting much colder. He says, please ignore that
it's snowing in England, in London.
He says, please ignore that Russia, like hundreds of people died, and it was freezing 40 below, and please ignore all that. Yeah. It's just like, wow.
So I ran into a similar character, this John Rappaport. You should look him up in the Wikipedia. He's an old investigative journalist.
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, he's like 70-something, and he was on some podcast, and it was interesting because he essentially has got he doesn't have as many little no-agenda litanies in his armor or in his ammo, but he's got the same ones we have. He said Snowden works for the CIA. The whole thing's part of a fight between the agencies.
Now, is this his own podcast? Or?
No. He was. He writes a blog. He's
I want to follow him.
Somebody brought him into a podcast, and then he talks about.
Podcasts have peaked, John. It's all over. Podcasts have peaked.
He's got the same thoughts on the swine flu, pretty much every single thing.
Nice.
But he has a couple of interesting metas that actually one of them is kind of bothersome because it's like, well, we probably knew this, but we didn't quite know it. But he discusses how news uses mind control, and he goes into all these things that he doesn't have a number of our kind of insights to certain events that take place in the terrorist realm. But he play this clip, the RAP mind control in the news, and just listen. He discusses how all these things are never resolved on purpose.
Let's just follow this in the coming weeks and months, just the way we followed the swine flu, Fast and Furious, Benghazi, the IRS treatment of applicants for nonprofit status, the spying on reporters, the AP and Fox and Sharyl Attkisson, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And let's just see where they really end up. Do they really end up anywhere? No, they don't end up anywhere. And that's part of my work, as a journalist, to point this out to people. They don't end up anywhere. And so some people take this as a sign that I'm not on board with whatever the standard alternative news is supposed to be, see? Yeah. Because if I were, then I would be elevating Snowden to some great position in the sky. But what I'm saying is, no, you don't understand. These stories don't have an ending, don't you see? They've never had an ending. And you can go back as far as you want to in history, and you will see that. And so this is what you have to learn. This is sort of the meta level of understanding of information in the news. These stories don't have an ending, and there's a reason for that. And that's why you have to understand what mind control really is and what hypnosis really is and what a trance really is in order to really get a perspective on what the news really is.
Okay, let me see. It won't take long before someone comes out with a story. John Rappaport has freaked out. He is a conspiracy theorist crackpot. He is not to be trusted, and he's on drugs.
Well, there's all those and the others. And he also has this other one. I got this other little clip from him where it's just a shorty, and it talks about, which I think is kind of interesting in itself, even though I think that clip you just heard is his real.
It's a great clip, yeah.
Yeah, that's his rationale for understanding of the media. And this is a little one that's kind of a cute clip.
Sure. But we're talking about monster agencies here with huge numbers of people and billions and billions in funding, and who knows what else they're doing on the side to line their pockets. And so how policy, secret internal policy, is formed and shaped over years of this interrelational, interagency warfare is just another matter entirely separate from that. And it does take place. And yes, you're right. Many of these people have already sold out completely to the globalist vision, so they don't really care what happens to America.
And this is so sad. Mickey and I were talking this morning. Remember the the soldier who was on our plane when we came back from vacation, and he was in a coffin, obviously. And we got the picture of that as he was, as his family was on the tarmac.
Great shot. Yeah.
So I found out from Agent Orange, who can find out anything pretty much in military. Said, I want to know who this kid was, and he was, I think, 22. And the language that was used in the report about him is he basically, I think we're pretty sure he committed suicide in Germany. And and that's a real bummer when you think about it's one thing that we have this stupid, crazy war against something invisible, and people getting blown up and maimed and killed. It's another thing that people, and I've been over there. These kids are freaked out. They're like, "What the fuck are we doing here? This is nuts." And then they freak out, and then they wind up killing themselves. And so, but I think what Mickey said is like, what is does this result in anything? Are these wars good for anything? And I said, no, it's all about money. It's about money and power. And all of us people, not the globalist vision, we're just cannon fodder. It's all about money. All about money and power and resources, and we're irrelevant. And it's sad.
Well, it's the way it is. I wish I had saved. I had a clip once, and we never used it or whatever, but it was one of these from some Army spokesman. They made the claim that these suicides, or it turns out, it's not really got. It turns out there's no connection between the suicides and multiple deployments. That's what they were.
There's no connection whatsoever. I was in Iraq, and the first night I was in Iraq, I was just talking to Marines. Okay, Marines. And these Marines were 6'7", and all of a sudden the guy just breaks down crying, and he's falling into my arms crying. A huge Marine. Now, granted, he was 20, and he's just like, and just because I guess there was, I don't know what button I hit, but he was just freaking out because he didn't know what he was doing there. He doesn't want to kill children just because they're brown and live in sand. They're not doing anything wrong. The whole thing is wrong. Sorry, I didn't mean to get on that tangent.
Well, that goes off the deal.
No, I'm sorry. Well,
anyway, this Rappaport guy believes that this whole thing is, and he dissected, deconstructed Snowden's all his stories. He says none of them make any sense. None of them make any sense. He was here, and he was supposed to be this computer guy, and they joined the Army, and they made him special forces because he was a high school dropout, but a computer genius. He breaks 2 legs, and then they get rid of him. He says, "Why would they get rid of him? He's a computer guy. What difference does it make if his legs are broken?"
Don't need that. Don't need legs.
And he goes on with every one of these stories, and he says the only thing that makes any sense is that in fact, if you listen to the Rachel Maddow clip, she's all in on this. Play the Rachel Maddow shows rare skepticism clip.
Okay.
I think that when you balance what the government needs to do in order to keep us safe, one of the things you need to do in order to even have the argument reasonably is to know whether what they are doing actually does keep us safe. And that's why the NSA's failures to even know what Ed Snowden took from them seem to me like an important thing. If they don't even know what they've got, and they don't know when something's gone, then I'm not sure I want to trust them with everything that they're taking.
Here's the thing, John. More people heard Rachel Maddow say that from this podcast than when it originally aired.
This is true. But there are people that listen to her. Anyway, so this guy's thinking is the following, and we could go through the whole thing about Snowden, which we have actually already done.
I think we've done it. I'm almost kind of tired of it because now
but
we're just propagating their agenda.
Well, we're propagating somebody's agenda. Whatever, but we're just discussing it. So his thinking is that Snowden, being the CIA guy, that he never got any of this information. He says there's no way these systems don't have all kinds of blocks. And I mean, in fact, if you try to do a lot of stuff on any government computer, there's a lot of roadblocks. And even if you're the sysop, it doesn't make a lot of sense to him. And with it in mind that the NSA doesn't know what Snowden took, which means there's no logs of any sort, which is bullcrap.
Good point.
There's logs of everything. He was given all this material, according to Rappaport, by the CIA to leak it because the damned NSA is getting a big budget increase. Well, the CIA is getting their budget cut, and they're not putting up with it anymore.
And there you go. That's it. That's what we've said from day one.
Yeah.
NoMoreFakeNews.com, I think, is John Rappaport's website.
That's the site.
Looks pretty cool. I'm gonna. He's got an RSS feed. I hope I'll subscribe to that. Yeah. Now that I see his picture, I'm like, yeah, I know this guy. He used to be CBS. Maybe he might have done CBS reports.
He's been all over the place.
Didn't he also run for? Hold on a second. Didn't he?
Yeah, he ran for office and lost.
Well, yeah. Oh, what? You're going to tell the truth? No. You can't be a part of our club if you're going to do that.
Get out of here. Go.
All right. Let me play you a Sharpton clip to lift our mood. This is a classic Sharpton flub. It's hard to come by.
Yeah, they are getting more difficult to find because I think they do post on him now.
I think they have a 20-second delay just to edit the stupid shit out that he says. So this is, for some reason, this is about, I don't know, I'm not following any of this. And again, no one watches this. No one's watching these channels. This is Sharpton talking about Senator Cruz apparently has handed in his birth certificate. He was born in Canada, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, Alberta, I think
and which is speculating, fueling speculation that he might run for president or whatever. But here's a classic Sharpton flub on this non-interesting topic of news.
We're back with more on the continuing saga of Ted Cruz. Canadian by birth, extremist by choice. The senator released his Canadian birth certificate this weekend, starting talk over whether he's eligible to run for president. Since his mother was American, experts agree Senator Cruz was a U.S. senator from birth and eligible to...
There we go. A U.S. senator from birth is what he was.
U.S. Senator from birth.
What an idiot.
That's a good one.
And did you hear the latest Manning?
No, not besides the changing his name to Chelsea Clinton?
No, I mean Reverend Manning.
Oh, I actually, this is hey, you're stepping on my toes here.
Do you have a Manning? Do you have the Manning?
No, but I go back and hit the well every so often for some water.
This one is classic. Only a black reverend could say this. And I just love this guy, the way it's just funny the way he says stuff.
That this man failed. We gave a black man the highest prize in the universe, and then after that we gave him the Nobel Prize for Peace, even though he didn't earn it. We gave to him everything that he needed to succeed. We gave him everything that he needed to succeed. We gave him everything he needed to lead his people. We gave him everything he needed to help black people. We gave him everything he needed to change the world and the dynamics of black people. We gave him everything to heal slavery. We gave him the presidency, and we gave him the Nobel Prize for Peace. We gave him everything. And the nigga failed.
It's like Richard Pryor. The guy is phenomenal.
Yeah, you're right, man. Manning's only going to get away with it.
No. Hey, I wanted to thank everybody for all of the research on the Bertha Foundation. I think we've pretty much figured it out. And guess what?
Okay.
It seems like we actually have a good guy.
Oh.
Yeah. So, okay. So,
why be hiding?
Well, there's a number of reasons, possibly. So this all goes. So remember, Lara Tabatsnik is the CEO and founder of the Bertha Foundation. The Bertha Foundation is this outfit that is just handing out money left and right, mainly to fund documentaries. So I thought it stopped with Laura, but actually it all stems from her father, Anthony, or AKA Tony Tabatsnik. Now, Tony Tabatsnik, and all of this research is in the show notes, and it's quite in-depth, and people have gotten, I mean, our show is so phenomenal when you see the research. People have gotten documents from Swiss business registries, from South Africa. We know everything there is to know that's available about the Tabatsnik family. But in a nutshell, Tony Tabatsnik made billions of dollars. In fact, he sold his company to Merck BV, it's registered in the Netherlands, by making generic drugs, by finding loopholes in trademark, copyright, and patent law. So he started very early on making generic drugs, selling them, making a killing, and then Merck basically said, "Well, screw this guy, we're going to buy him." So he sold out for
This is what happened to most generic drugs.
Oh yeah, so now Merck generic, or the generic, it is Merck generics. So he made billions of dollars, and he decided that he was going to put a lot of his money to good work by, and this is what's interesting, he is what's known as, and I found a whole bunch of links here, they call them the self-hating Jews. And, Tabatsnik...
We know about the self-hating Jews. And self-loathing is usually the way it's referred to.
Well, I'm just reading what I have in writing, not my own personal whatever. So here is, he is part of a large group, particularly British, but they're also in the United States, Jews who are very angry at Israeli policy, particularly as it relates to Palestine. And so if you go and you look at the movies that he's financing or indirectly financing, but I think it's his son Neil, he's an executive producer. There's the whole Seth Tabatsnik. I mean, there's just tons of Tabatsniks, all in movies and documentaries. Mainly, the ones that are financed are against American policy that influences Israel or directly against Israeli policy as it relates to Palestine. And very interesting. So this money, and I'm neither here nor there on whatever's going on in the Middle East because it's been going on my entire life. But the idea that he's taking his money and putting it into these documentaries, I think, is kind of interesting. And I have to say, I couldn't really find anything. And he looks like a weird hippie. This Tabatsnik guy.
This group is a very pro. They're the ones in the bumper stickers. They're all over Berkeley. You stop Israeli occupation of Palestine.
Right. Well, I'm against this killing that's going on for sure, and it seems like there's a bunch of shit that's going on there.
It's a dual responsibility problem, and there have been opportunities, especially during the Arafat regime, to solve these problems. And when one side agrees to do it, the other side refuses. And there was a really good number of potentials that took place, came and went, and a lot of people believe that a lot of it has to do with kind of a certain type of specific corruption that you find in the especially in the Palestine area. But it's if you want to, I don't know if this seems to be pretty targeted to me, so that's why he's hiding, because he knows there's a bunch of other Jews that would take offense at this one guy spending all this money on this one thing.
And what's funny about it is, here is, I had to chuckle, and I'll just say it because on this podcast I've said this in mainstream media before and got in big trouble for it. But here's an example of a Jew influencing the media. You can't ignore what is happening, and it's I'd said that once in Holland. And I got called out in newspapers, and you're an anti-Semite, and it was crazy. And I said, but look at this. Anyway, irrelevant. So that's what's going on with this guy.
Okay, well then we that's all we need to do with them. Then we know this is essentially pro-Palestinian Jewish guy who's going to just throw money at a problem.
Well, also, but I think that what you're seeing is any project that is anti-American support of Israel, of the current Israeli regime.
Yeah, will probably be coming from his
his pocketbook, exactly. And just as a side note, I found out that Roger Waters of Pink Floyd fame is now leading this whole kind of like remember the Sun City thing when Bruce Springsteen and Steve Van Sant and the East Street and all those guys won't play Sun City, which was because of apartheid in South Africa. Right. So Roger Waters is trying to set something up like that and using the same apartheid words and trying to get everyone to stop playing in Israel.
How original!
Well, that's what these guys do.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't think that's going to go anywhere, but we can see what happens.
But I just thought it was interesting that here's this guy, and by the way,
you definitely found the guy. You dug him up, and we had a lot of help, and we got to the bottom of the whole thing. And it turns out to be not that interesting, but I can see why he's hiding.
But you have to take it further, because he's financing Laura Poitras, he's financing all of these people that are involved with the Snowden stuff. So
I know that's
the
fishy part. We have to figure out why what is Poitras going to do? Well, she did a no, she's the one who did the Iraq thing, where she followed her original documentary, which was
My Country, or whatever.
My Country, with this guy, and it was very scathing. And I suppose what's his name? That guy was on everything. What's his name? The guy with the beard who did the documentary that was so popular for a while.
The guy with the beard.
The guy with this guy. Who's
the guy with the beard?
The guy who kept showing up. We had clips of him. He's the one who did the story about how we're screwing everybody. The war thing is a scam. I can't remember his name, but he's part of. He was. If I looked up this guy, I could find it, or the foundation, I'd find his name. We've talked about him a million times.
I can't come up with it. I believe you. I just can't. I can't think of who the guy with the beard is.
His name's on a couple of clips.
Yeah.
But very entertaining guy. He's always on the Democracy Now! And
is it like a long beard or a short beard?
No, he's a little short douchebag beard. It's not a big deal. It's kind of scruffy. You should be seeing him by now. That's my fine description.
No, I'm just racking my brain. I
don't care. You're not racking your brain.
I am racking my brain. All right.
Anyway, the guy. It's the newest hot movie that's floating around about the surveillance state, the wars, the whole thing.
Well, so I think you can take this a step further, and so it's just his kids that are shelling out the money, and that people are taking advantage of it, which I think is very feasible. But everything that is essentially anti-Israeli American imperialistic motives, which the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, you could say that that's all a part of it. He seems to be wanting to finance that stuff.
Yeah, well, somebody's got to do it.
Jeremy Scahill?
Yeah, there you go. Somebody in the chat room.
Yeah, of course. I didn't know he had to be. Yeah, the Dirty Wars guy. Exactly.
Yeah, Dirty Wars. That guy.
Yeah, that's
finance.
That's his son Neil. So Neil is the executive producer on that one. But how does it tie into the Snowden stuff? That's what's puzzling to me.
$64 question. Unless they're Poitras, of course, did one of the movies for him, which was right down the line of the checklist that you just cited.
Yeah.
So she did that, and now maybe she's working on something similar, and she's we don't know what it is, and maybe that's what the exchange of these data documents about, because we're under the complete. I'm all in on the fact that Snowden gave Glenn Greenwald everything. He's got it all, so there's no reason to talk anymore. Right. Snowden can go do his own thing.
Right.
There may be something else going on, which is maybe even more interesting.
How about this? How about there was someone else accompanying David Miranda, and this was part of the documentary, and at least his incarceration or temporary incarceration was filmed.
That could be.
Because he did come from Poitras. And she said, "Okay, here's my boy Wolfgang. He's going to fly with you, and he's going to have the GoPro." And you're going to get yourself arrested, and you'll have recording devices and everything. And he'll get some of it. Won't get all of it, but he'll get some of it. And they'll get a lot of that back. It's,
Yeah, something's up.
Yeah, movie time.
We're being duped again, the public.
Movie
by
of
these
the
idiots that make more money than we do.
That's okay. I'm having more fun than they are.
Well, that could be. Speak for yourself.
I am speaking for myself, and I do it with great pleasure.
So when I go visit Gibraltar, I'm going to take a drive up the A7 and go to Malaga.
Malaga.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you say Malaga, I say Malaga. It depends.
They got a good wine there.
All right, everybody, that is it for today's program. Reminder, we'll be back on Sunday, and we do need your help. For the research we're doing, to keep us rolling, Dvorak.org/NA, and get rid of those. Just get off Gmail. Let's do something else, please. Coming to you from the capital of the Drone Star State, I am Adam Chelsea Curry in the morning.
And from Northern Silicon Valley, I'm John Chelsea Dvorak.
We'll talk to you again on Sunday, right here on No Agenda.
Adios, mofo. The best podcast in the universe. Dvorak.org/NA